Good morning. I'm Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk. It is Monday. It's the start to a new week, and I'm so glad that you're hopping on with us this morning. We're going to be tackling a lot of different things on the Digital Desk this morning, including a new mural that is on display in Orange Mound honoring the life of Tyree Nichols. We'll have more on that. Also, allergy season. I'm sure some of you are already dealing with issues with allergies. We're going to be talking about what symptoms to look out for, maybe some tips to help you deal with it. Also, daylight saving times. You know what's happening next weekend. We are going to be losing an hour, but we're going to gain some extra sunlight in the evenings. I know I'm looking forward to that. And then also some business trends. We've been dealing with so much inflation. The housing market has been dealing with higher interest rates and things like that. So we're going to talk with an expert that's going to break through what we're dealing with right now, the latest trends, and where we see things going in the near future over the next 6 to 12 months. But how about we take a live look right now? This is our high five camera here in Midtown Memphis. We're getting that sky this morning, a few clouds out and about, and it's going to be a warm one. So make sure that you're prepared. It's a little cool out there this morning. You may want that light jacket, but once we get into the afternoon hours, it's going to be feeling like summer out there. Let's go ahead and get that breakdown from meteorologist Brittany Brown.
Good morning. Another warm day ahead for us today. Warm again tomorrow as well with a high around 70. You know, average for this point in March is 61 degrees. So we are starting to see that average rise, but a drop in temperatures on Wednesday, and then we'll be back closer to normal with highs in the 60s Thursday through Sunday. But look at next week. High temperatures take another dip, and it looks like we'll have below average temperatures pretty much all of next week. Now today and tomorrow, we don't have any rain in the forecast, but that drop in temperatures on Wednesday is because of a cold front. And that will bring in some rain, actually a 70% chance of rain Wednesday, high rain chances Thursday, and a few showers early in the morning on Friday too. So let's talk timing. First alert Futurecast, 9 o'clock in the morning, still mostly dry. Now you may squeeze out a stray shower in Arkansas over towards Wynn, but look at Memphis, North Mississippi. We're really not seeing much of that rain at that point. Over the hours in the morning and into the afternoon, you'll get that rain moving in. So by 2 o'clock, widespread heavy rain, especially for eastern Arkansas, where you're seeing those oranges and reds indicating some heavier rain. Over towards West Memphis and Forest City, rain continues on and off throughout the afternoon. By 7 o'clock at night on Wednesday, heavy rain in North Mississippi, a few spotty showers in Memphis, but you actually get more heavy rain arriving just after midnight here Wednesday into early Thursday. And as I mentioned, high rain chances Thursday. You'll probably have on and off rain all day. So with rain Thursday and Wednesday and early Friday, we have about 3 inches of rain in the forecast through Friday morning in Memphis, about 2.5 inches in Tunica, Helena, close to 2 inches in Holly Springs and Bolivar, and about an inch up towards Dyersburg and Blytheville. We do not need any more rain at this point, though. We're about 2.5 inches above normal for the month of March so far, and March just started. So we are slowly going to see those rain chances rise here through the end of the week. So we may tack on another 2 to 3 inches of rain, as I mentioned, to that total that we already have for March. Thankfully, no rain in the forecast today. If you want to do something outside, such a nice afternoon for it. By noon, we're at 73, 1 o'clock, 75 degrees, and a nice southwest wind at about 10 to 15 miles per hour today. So your high on Saturday is 64 degrees. We're at 65 on Sunday, and you have a chance for a stray shower over the weekend, but it does look like we'll be mostly dry here. Temperatures in the upper 70s on Monday, 70 degrees on Tuesday, 50s as I mentioned on Wednesday, and there's that rain in the forecast. And then by the weekend, you'll have a 20% chance of a stray shower on Saturday and Sunday, but rain chances dropping down for the weekend.
All right, well, Grizz star Ja Morant deactivates his Twitter and also his Instagram account after a viral social media post puts him on the sideline for at least 2 games. I'm sure most of you, if you're a Grizzly fan, know about this, know what happened here. It follows an Instagram post that appears to show the NBA star waving a gun at a nightclub here in Memphis. Action News 5's Walter Murphy has more on the controversy that is keeping him now on the sideline.
Memphis Grizzly Ja Morant taking full responsibility for the video that appears to show the superstar waving around a handgun while partying at a nightclub early Saturday morning. In a statement, Morant says, in part, "I'm sorry to my family, teammates, coaches, the city of Memphis, and the entire Grizzlies organization for letting you down." Ja Morant went on to say he's going to be taking time away to get help for stress and his overall well-being. The Memphis Grizzlies releasing their own statement Saturday saying their star player will be out for at least the next 2 games.
Any negativity that comes from any kind of bad action is always going to have an effect.
We caught up with Marion Strickland outside of FedEx Forum Saturday afternoon. He says that Ja Morant is without a doubt one of the best players in the league. Over the last year, Morant's raked in lucrative endorsements from companies like Nike and Powerade, and with those big wins comes a big spotlight.
You know, you got to be aware that all eyes are always going to be on you. No matter what you do, you're going to be the focal point of attention. So you just got to be aware of that and make smart decisions, because you are going to affect a lot of people.
The number 2 in the West, Memphis Grizzlies, playing without their 2-time All-Star, 27.1 point averaging and 8.2 assist leader, will certainly be felt for the next couple of games, a consequence that Strickland says will hurt, but one he can't argue with.
And them 2 games can be important. So I guess the league's going to take a look at all that and then go from there. But something, if the accusations are true, something has to be done as far as accountability goes.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy week ahead for the Grizzlies. They're going to be taking on the LA Lakers in Los Angeles tomorrow. Also, their next home game is going to be on Thursday against the Warriors, and that's going to be the first home game following this suspension for Ja. So we'll be watching that, and of course we'll be following the latest with the Grizzlies. We'll see what happens next as far as that goes. Well, Coach Taylor Jenkins, he did release, told reporters in part, quote, "It's a very tough moment for sure. We love him. We want what's best for him. It's going to be a difficult process," end quote. So again, we're going to be following the latest with this. We'll let you know what happens and when Ja might be back on the court once we're able to find out a little bit more. Meanwhile, a man is currently recovering after being critically injured in a shooting that happened on Ferndale Road. That shooting happened in the middle of the day in front of kids, and Action News 5's Stephanie Douglas has the very latest details on what we know right now.
22-year-old man who was shot is recovering here at Regional 1 Hospital. According to the victim's 12-year-old cousin, he was shot 7 times in a robbery.
This is like the first time that this has happened around here.
Around 1 p.m. Sunday in this Burkclair neighborhood on Ferndale Road, Jose Carcamo says his 22-year-old cousin was called to this house, but when he got there was approached by unknown men in ski masks.
He went over to cross the street, and then they got out and asked for everything that he had.
Jose says that's when the suspects beat him, shot him multiple times, and took off in a Honda Civic in broad daylight. MPD says when investigators arrived at the scene, they found a man suffering from gunshot wounds.
There was kids outside playing, and they saw what happened too.
Residents like Leslie Walker, who lived in the neighborhood for 40 years, says it's a quiet neighborhood and crimes like this rarely occur.
People are relatively nice, good neighbors. So, this is kind of like a shock to me.
A crime statistic map from the Memphis Police Department reports a total of 5 robberies of individuals a half a mile from the incident since the beginning of the year, including one just yesterday. It's a reality that Carcamo says now hits a little too close to home, especially with gun violence on the rise.
More is happening, and it's coming more to our area. And more of it is happening near all these places where young people are.
Now tonight, the family tells me that the man is listed in stable condition. However, Memphis police are still searching for the 2 suspects responsible. No description has been released, but if you know any information regarding this shooting, you're encouraged to contact Crime Stoppers at 528-CASH. Reporting in Memphis, Stephanie Douglas, Action News 5.
All right, well, many people enjoyed drag brunches across the Mid-South this weekend after Tennessee Governor Bill Lee signed what's called the anti-drag bill into law. Action News 5's Walter Murphy spoke with one Memphis business who says they're not going to stop even after the bill goes into effect on April 1st. Take a listen.
Kids and adults alike came out for good food and entertainment at the weekly Rainbow Brunch at Atomic Rose on Sunday. Only only 3 days after Governor Lee signed a controversial bill into law that bans or restricts drag shows in the state of Tennessee. The governor told Action News 5 on Wednesday the law is meant to protect children.
Sexualized entertainment in front of children and obscenity for children is something that shouldn't happen in this state.
Organizers of Rainbow Brunch in downtown Memphis say it's always family friendly. State Senate Minority Leader Ramesh Akbari says she's been to a few of them herself and never seen anything that she'd deem inappropriate for children.
There are people celebrating their birthdays, there are people just there to have brunch. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, a really fun source of entertainment, a great place for a diverse group of people to gather.
Showrunner of the Sunday tradition here at Atomic Rose, Bella Duvall, says the show will go on, despite and in spite of what she calls an attack of the LGBTQ plus community in Memphis and beyond.
I am here to tell you that if someone attempts to use this law to tell me that I cannot march in the Pride Parade and Festival, I will not comply. If they attempt to tell me that I can no longer welcome children into our all ages performance in this safe space, I will not comply.
And the people that were here on Sunday say they're not giving in or giving up either.
We will be here longer than the state legislature. We will vote you out.
In Memphis, I'm Walter Murphy, Action News 5.
Now that drag bill is getting attention from both sides of the aisle on the national level. Conservatives say the bill isn't meant to target the LGBTQ community. It's about protecting children. But critics, including the White House, say the law is unjust and just dangerous.
Part of a larger pattern from elected officials who espouse freedom and liberty, but apparently think that freedom of speech only extends to people who agree with them.
The new law will go into effect, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, on April 1st. Well, over in Orange Mound, there is a new mural up on display, and it's honoring Tyree Nichols. It's dedicated to him. The painting features a portrait of Nichols himself, along with some of his favorite things like skateboarding, the sunset, as we've heard so many stories about the kind of person that he was. Action News 5's photographer Darren Baldwin spoke with the artist behind the artwork and put together this great piece.
Art to me is a way to express something, and I use it to show different perspectives of what people don't see. You know, using perspective to show distance or to shine light on something that needs to be talked about more, like systemic racism, police brutality. My philosophy is the things that need to be said, sometimes uncomfortable, but I believe art should comfort the uncomfortable and disturb the comfortable. When you zoom out far enough, we're on one planet, and we all came from the same place, and we're all going to go back to it. I just feel for him and his family, and his mother especially. I know it's just art, and it's just something on a wall, but I'm hoping the message of changing the world, like somebody yelled out to his mom during the funeral, and I believe in the message. This should have never happened. As a human, like, I could not even watch the video still to this day. I could just be a messenger, and I hope it does something. I'm just gonna do what I can do and how I do it.
A good piece there. Now, if you want to go check out that mural, you can find it on the corner of Pendleton and Park Avenue. That's where it's on display at that gas station there. So how about this? It looks like the future of energy in Tennessee could be nuclear. There are 2 power plants in the state, but thanks to a new program, TVA is planning to open up a 3rd one. It'll be the only one in the U.S. with a permit to operate what's called an SMR. Now, leaders say Tennessee is going to lead the way when it comes to clean and safe nuclear energy.
This design takes a very safe technology and takes it to entirely new levels of safety.
This site is kind of ground zero in part of the future of America's energy strategy.
The new power plant will take about 5 to 10 years to get set up and to complete. TVA says it's a big part of their plans to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2015, so something they're working towards. So metastatic breast cancer is a type of breast cancer that spreads to other parts of the body. That could be the bones, lungs, brain, even liver. And the cancer can come back months, even years after a woman's original diagnosis. Action News 5's Sydney Gray shows you how doctors now have a new drug that helps women to be able to live their fullest life, even with metastatic breast cancer.
Tika Hall bought a designer jacket for a very special occasion, one that she thought she might not live to see. Hall survived breast cancer in 2010, and she calls it her medical speed bump.
You know, I went back to work and, was at my job and living my life.
But 3 years ago, she was on a Zoom call and couldn't stop coughing. It wasn't COVID, the cancer was back.
My son was a freshman in college at the time. The first thing I thought of is I'm not going to see Gabriel graduate. I knew I wasn't going to be there. And that is the only thing that makes me cry or get misty-eyed, is not being there for my son.
Chemo kept the cancer from growing, but then on a visit with her son, she felt sudden pain in her abdomen. The cancer had spread to her liver.
I was decompensating medically, getting worse every day. I was in the hospital. You're supposed to be getting better, but I was getting worse. They said 2 choices. You can stay here, but you're not going to leave the hospital alive, or you can go home.
Hall went home to die. Family and friends flocked to Pittsburgh to say goodbye. She gave away her clothes, designed an urn, then had a service.
I don't have it. It felt sort of like being at your own funeral, because people were saying such nice things. It was really wonderful. I know that sounds really odd, but it was so life-affirming.
Doctors gave her less than a month to live, but then something that amazed her friends and family.
Tika looks better. And you're not supposed to look better as you approach death.
Hall called her longtime oncologist, Dr. Adam Brufsky, who found one last option. In the few weeks she had been home, a new drug had become available for women with HER2 metastatic breast cancer called Enhertu.
So it delivers the chemotherapy directly to the cancer cells that express HER2, anywhere in the body.
Hall gets an infusion of Enhertu every 3 weeks. For now, it's keeping the cancer under control.
I don't think of it as a battle. I'm not fighting. I'm thriving. I'm living. I'm on a journey.
A journey that will take her to Brunswick, Maine this May, wearing her new suit for Gabriel's graduation.
Looks like I'll be there.
Enhertu is not a cure, but Dr. Brufsky calls it a game changer. Women on Enhertu survive an average of more than 2 years on the drug, and their quality of life is good during that time. For women like Tika, that means time to witness major life milestones like a graduation, wedding, or birth of a child.
All right, let's switch gears here and let's talk about a brand new study. It finds that managers are shouldering the burden of mental well-being at the workforce these days. Mental health, of course, a big concern, especially coming out of the pandemic. Well, according to the World Health Organization, approximately 12 billion workdays are lost each year to conditions like depression and anxiety. Mental health conditions can directly affect a person's quality of life, including their productivity at work. Let's bring in right now Dr. Joe DeGrasso. He is a PhD. He's a senior director of the workforce transformation at Lyra Health, and he's joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Dr. Grasso, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Andrew?
Not too bad, not too bad. Working on a number of different things here, but mental health is always an issue that I kind of stop everything and pay attention to because it's so prevalent. And it doesn't matter what background you are, it doesn't matter how old you are, what gender you are, people are finding mental health issues everywhere. And it's affecting their work, and it's affecting how productive they are. Where did you see in this study about mental health?
Well said, and what our study found echoes a lot of what you just mentioned. We found that 86% of workers that we surveyed across the United States reported that they had struggled with their mental health at least once in the past year alone, but only 33% reported that they had gotten any kind of care or treatment for their mental health. And when you combine that with the fact that 60% said that their mental health affects their ability to work, it really became clear that not only is this an issue for individuals, but it becomes a critical problem to solve for employers as well.
You know, it's interesting. It also said that that managers really shoulder the brunt of this mental health crisis that we're dealing with now. And I know a few managers, and they tell me all about this. It's such an issue right now. Why do you think that is, and how do we improve that?
It's true. Managers really feel the squeeze, because they have to report up to leadership in ways that hold them accountable for productivity and production from their team. But they're also answering to a team of employees that are more attuned to mental health than ever, and recognize that a manager holds a lot of the cards when it comes to curbing risk of burnout and work-related stress. And so what managers need from their employer are more resources around how to recognize when work might be causing distress or mental health harm to teams, recognizing when an employee might need a referral to a mental health benefit or resource, and also recognizing that they need tools to lead teams in ways that create mentally healthy work cultures.
So, Doctor, what do we do to strengthen the workplace well-being for everybody out there? Because it really needs a lot of emphasis, and it feels like it just needs a lot of TLC.
It does, and we need to attack it from a few different angles. We need to make sure that employers are providing mental health benefits that get people into care quickly and get them matched with the provider who's well suited for their needs. So that way, when a manager does recognize someone's in distress, they can trust that that person's going to get the help that they need. Then we also need to train managers in how to lead these teams in ways that prevent the risk that work itself is causing distress. And so there's interventions that need to happen from within the company, but then there are also benefits and resources that employees need outside the company to get necessary care.
Can you share maybe some strategies, if there were some bullet points right now with our viewers? We have thousands of people watching us right now. Maybe some strategies out there that can help managers and others with the workplace and mental health well-being right now?
Absolutely. If you're a manager, I want you to hear the message that prioritizing your mental health is not only important for you, it's important for your team. And this can be simple things happening in the workplace, like making sure you're taking vacation, and when you do, you make sure to be fully offline and disconnected so that your team knows that they have permission to prioritize their mental health and be fully disconnected when they're away from work. Same thing with setting boundaries around work hours, not sending emails at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. And lastly, not going it alone. If you're a manager dealing with complex or tricky issues at work, model what it looks like to ask for help so that your team can recognize that it's okay to reach out for support when they're needing some extra help too.
What else, Joe? We've touched on a number of different things. Is there anything else you want to mention to our viewers that you feel might be beneficial to them?
Just to recognize that mental health is a universal issue. As you were mentioning earlier, everyone is affected by their own state of mental health. And no matter what your state of mental health is, it's worth you prioritizing investment into it. So this means doing things like ensuring you're getting good physical activity, you're socializing, you're getting good sleep, you're making sure to stop and maybe reflect with some gratitude on things that are going well in life, but also know that if your own attempts at taking care of yourself aren't cutting it, if you're still struggling with your thoughts or emotions or behavior that you're wanting to change, those are all good indicators that reaching out for mental health support from a professional is a really good idea.
Joe, this is a great conversation to have. Where can people go to get some more information? Maybe some of the things that you discussed.
Sure. To learn more about anything that we discussed, whether that's manager strategies or how you can take care of your own wellness, or to read all of the findings from our report, you can visit our site at Lyra, Lyra, health.com.
Okay, Joe Grasso, PhD, Senior Director of Workforce Transformation. We really appreciate the discussion. Very helpful and just shining a light on something that really needs to be addressed, not only this year, but going forward into the future. Thank you very much. There is a new revolutionary cancer treatment we want to tell you about, and it is something that's certainly raising a few eyebrows this morning. It's available at Methodist Cancer Institute, and I want to bring in right now to the Action News 5 digital desk Dr. Lillian Rinker. She's Medical Director of Radiation Oncology for the Methodist Cancer Institute. Let's go ahead and talk about this revolutionary breakthrough here.
Well, thanks so much for having me today. We are so excited about this new technology. It's called the Elekta Unity. It's a combination of a magnetic resonance imaging scanner and a linear accelerator. An MRI scanner is a type of imaging that gives beautiful pictures of internal anatomy, and is especially helpful for treating giving radiation to cancer patients. That combined with a linear accelerator, which is the machine that typically is used to give radiation treatment, it gives us this revolutionary new technology. For instance, it is only one of 10 such treatment machines in the entire country. It's the only such machine in the Mid-South. For instance, you would need to go to Florida or Texas or Wisconsin to be able to access this type of treatment, and we just couldn't be more excited to have it. One of the most exciting things is that it gives us the ability really to see cancers in a way that we've never been able to see before in terms of radiation treatment. So for instance, organs like the liver and the brain that we just don't see too well with CT, MRI changes everything. We can so much better see the tumor, target it, and also see healthy surrounding tissues and stay off them. So we really have the ability to limit the dose to the healthy structures nicely. For instance, some of the areas that we excel in are in the abdomen and the pelvis. Think, for instance, of the pancreas, surrounded by stomach, small bowel, organs that move minute by minute, and the ability to stay off those organs and to actually focus in on our tumor. If our tumor shrinks, then, day by day, minute by minute even, we are able to refocus on that tumor and off of healthy, normal tissues. Another instance is in the pelvis, the prostate, for instance, or GYN malignancies. We're especially focused on GI and GU malignancies, or gastrointestinal and genitourinary malignancies, again, because of nearby small bowel, bladder, and rectum, which are much easier to see on this machine and avoid. Am I answering your questions?
So let me jump in a little bit, Doctor. Okay. Thank you so much, and I'm so glad that you're with us, and this revolutionary breakthrough is always great, especially when it comes to cancer treatment. Can you explain in layman's terms what patients went through before and how different it is going to be now in the most layman terms possible?
Right. So radiation is typically planned on a CT scan, which is a single snapshot of the area of the body that we're interested in. So when you're doing your planning for the radiation treatment, it's based on an image where you're contouring your cancer. You're also contouring and showing the computer really where your target is and where your normal organs are that you want to reduce dose or limit dose to. The difference here is that the imaging is with MRI instead of CT. We still do an initial plan, much like typical radiation treatment. The difference is that when a patient comes for treatment, instead of using the plan from day one, and this plan never changes, as our tumor shrinks, say, a head and neck malignancy where you're getting some shrinkage of that tumor every week, or day to day, we actually replan on the fly so that we can change our treatment, adapt our treatment minute by minute, not only to the size and shape and position of the tumor, but also to avoid organs around the tumor that are constantly in motion. So the ability to readapt during each treatment every day is revolutionary. It also takes longer. So a regular radiation treatment might take 15 or 20 minutes. This treatment, you may be on the table up to an hour. So it's not the right treatment for everybody. If you have a pacemaker or severe claustrophobia, this could be a problem as well.
So how new is this kind of technology, and what cancers are primarily affected with this, and what have been the results of this new treatment? I mean, is it showing vastly greater results for patients? Explain.
So the technology is quite new. With cancer research, we typically need years to help prove in an academic manner that one treatment is better than another. So we're not quite there yet with MRI, but we do have early studies that are showing significantly lower doses to surrounding critical structures. And we believe that within the next few years, we'll have such data. So especially, I'll go back to pancreatic cancer. That's a cancer that's traditionally been very difficult to treat, in part because it's hard to see. It's also surrounded by very sensitive organs, the liver, the stomach, small bowel, that are always moving. Because of this, in the past, radiation oncologists have had a hard time escalating the dose to the cancer in a way that really allows them to do a good job with that cancer. And this is such a technology that can really change that. For the first time, we have the ability to take into account the position of normal tissues minute by minute and avoid those tissues. Additionally, for the liver and brain, these are areas that we've had to rely on diagnostic imaging. And you can't go get a diagnostic MRI every day and plan off of it every day. That's just not feasible. Whereas this machine basically allows that. For the first time, we have the ability to use an MRI for a brand new treatment plan every day, on the fly, if you will. And that's just never been possible before.
That's great news. So I know that Methodist is just one of a handful of hospitals across the country that have this technology. Tell me what employees and what's been some of the reaction. Have patients been a part of this already? I mean, give me some reaction to some folks that deal with you and in cancer treatment facilities.
Right. So in general, as you might guess, that's been a tremendous reaction. With the pandemic, we were a little slower getting the machine put in place and ready to go than we otherwise would have been. We've been up and running since the end of October. But it's been a slow open. For instance, the staff, the physicist, the dosimetrist, and therapist who are so instrumental in giving this treatment have had to train long hours. They've worked very hard to be up and running for this machine, and we have actually treated a few patients already. They've done well, and everybody's tolerated the treatment quite well. We are looking to be busier, and hence the push now to kind of let the community, the Mid-South, know that we're open and ready. We're just so excited to be part of the future. This really does put Memphis and the Mid-South on the map in terms of cancer treatment in a way that we've never been.
Dr. Rinker, we have thousands of people that watch us here on the Action News 5 digital desk each and every day. A final question. What does this mean for the Mid-South from your perspective, and what would you like Memphis and the Mid-South to know, other than the details you explained to us, just know about this revolutionary technology coming to Memphis?
Yeah, so it's a wonderful new technology. Anybody who thinks they, might want to know more, might be a candidate for treatment, give us a call. We're happy to talk with you. We would love to get the word out. We would love to have more providers and patients come meet with us, check us out. Let's see if this treatment might be right, for people, in Memphis first, but case in point, for even surrounding states, you'd have to go to Texas or Wisconsin or Florida to get this treatment. So for people who are closer to us than those places, they should consider consultations here. I think as we grow and the machine becomes more in use, we will have or find many more ways that it excels.
Okay, Dr. Lillian Rinker, Methodist Cancer Institute, talking about the revolutionary cancer treatment that is now here and available for patients in the Mid-South. We appreciate your time this morning. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good morning. Another warm day ahead for us today. Warm again tomorrow as well with a high around 70. Average for this point in March is 61 degrees. So we are starting to see that average rise, but a drop in temperatures on Wednesday, and then we'll be back closer to normal with highs in the 60s Thursday through Sunday. But look at next week. High temperatures take another dip, and it looks like we'll have below average temperatures pretty much all of next week. Now today and tomorrow, we don't have any rain in the forecast, but that drop in temperatures on Wednesday is because of a cold front. And that will bring in some rain, actually a 70% chance of rain Wednesday, high rain chances Thursday, and a few showers early in the morning on Friday too. So let's talk timing. First alert Futurecast, 9 o'clock in the morning, still mostly dry. Now you may squeeze out a stray shower in Arkansas over towards Wynn, but look at Memphis, North Mississippi. We're really not seeing much of that rain at that point. Over the hours in the morning and into the afternoon, you'll get that rain moving in. So by 2 o'clock, widespread heavy rain, especially for eastern Arkansas, where you're seeing those oranges and reds indicating some heavier rain. Over towards West Memphis and Forest City, rain continues on and off throughout the afternoon. By 7 o'clock at night on Wednesday, heavy rain in North Mississippi, a few spotty showers in Memphis, but you actually get more heavy rain arriving just after midnight here Wednesday into early Thursday. And as I mentioned, high rain chances Thursday. You'll probably have on and off rain all day. So with rain Thursday and Wednesday and early Friday, we have about 3 inches of rain in the forecast through Friday morning in Memphis, about 2.5 inches in Tunica, Helena, close to 2 inches in Holly Springs and Bolivar, and about 1 inch up towards Dyersburg and Blytheville. We do not need any more rain at this point, though. We're about 2.5 inches above normal for the month of March so far, and March just started. So we are slowly going to see those rain chances rise here through the end of the week. So we may tack on another 2 to 3 inches of rain, as I mentioned, to that total that we already have for March. Thankfully, no rain in the forecast today. If you want to do something outside, such a nice afternoon for it. By noon, we're at 73, 1 o'clock, 75 degrees, and a nice southwest wind at about 10 to 15 miles per hour today. So your high on Saturday is 64 degrees. We're at 65 on Sunday, and you have a chance for a stray shower over the weekend, but it does look like we'll be mostly dry here. Temperatures in the upper 70s on Monday, 70 degrees on Tuesday, 50s as I mentioned on Wednesday, and there's that rain in the forecast. And then by the weekend, you'll have a 20% chance of a stray shower on Saturday and Sunday, but rain chances dropping down for the weekend.
Well, we have a warning today for any parent that is considering an in-home daycare. One couple is sharing their story after experiencing something that no parent wants to. Their child suffered from second and third degree burns while in the care of this in-home daycare provider. Their son is now doing better, but they're wanting to make sure to spread their story, to let other parents know what questions to ask if they are considering this. It's costing them thousands in medical bills right now. And consumer investigator Rachel DePompa has more on how to keep your family safe from any kind of daycare dilemma.
What book do you want, Bubby?
2-year-old Luke Herring loves story time.
Wherever, every day, I love you, and I will always love you.
His family is just hopeful he won't remember his story from when he was just 18 months old.
He was screaming bloody murder. It was a horrible scene.
Marianne and David Herring both work and needed flexible childcare for little Luke. They were running up against what many of us face: limited space at daycare facilities and the high cost. More than $10,000 each year. That's the staggering average price families pay for childcare.
Just on a weekly basis, averaging between $210 and $250 a week.
Family friends recommended a woman with a home daycare not far from their house.
Her exact words to us, "I'm completely legit." And because she was a family friend, because my neighbors knew her, I just didn't question any further.
On February 8th of 2022, the Herrings got the call no parent ever wants to receive. While the caregiver was making muffins, Luke burned his hands on the inside of an oven door. The Herrings believe there were more children in the daycare than the provider was able to care for.
She put aloe vera on his hand, and that was pretty much it.
Marianne and David drove Luke an hour away to an emergency burn center where he stayed for 18 days. He underwent 5 surgeries.
So you can see the scars there, all through here, as well as all up his hand here.
The family would later find out their provider had no insurance and was not licensed with the state.
Would you use a home daycare again?
No.
No, never.
In every state, the rules to inspect and regulate daycares are different. Some states require home daycares to be licensed, some do not. In many states, a license would mean oversight of things like inspections, set child to provider ratios, and insurance requirements.
We found incidents all across this country where children were injured inside at-home daycares, families filing lawsuits in Indiana, Illinois, North Carolina, and Missouri, to name a few. Finding a place for your child, it's already difficult. According to data from the U.S. Census, in April and May of last year, 19% of families couldn't send their child to daycare because of 3 things. It was either the cost, concerns over safety, or their daycare provider just wasn't available.
There are family child care homes out there that are not licensed that are doing a good job. And there are family child care homes out there that are licensed that aren't doing a great job. That's why we're here to help you navigate the system.
Mindy Bennett with Child Care Aware of America says you need to ask the right questions. How long have you been working with children? Are you CPR certified? What type of training do you have? Do you have insurance? And ask to see the documentation. Don't just take their word for it. She also says tour the facility or home and trust your gut. Pay for a background check. Look up a provider's license. Go online and read their ratings, reviews, and inspection reports.
The dinosaurs say.
Luke is doing much better now. The Herrings want other families to learn from their story.
It will forever haunt me that I didn't ask the right questions.
For Investigate TV, I'm Rachel DePompa.
And if you have a child in daycare here in the Mid-South, you know how expensive it is. In Tennessee, the average cost for an infant in a family child care facility in 2021 was $7,518 a year. I know my sister, she has 2 children. They pay well over that. So thousands of dollars each and every year. And like Rachel was mentioning, there's so many reasons why that's happening. So what a story. Hey, check out this awesome cover for the March edition of Memphis Magazine. We're about to dive into all of this, and we have 2 special guests joining us today. We have Chris McCoy who wrote and put together this cover story. We also have Anna Traverse joining us on the digital desk to talk more about the issue as a whole. Anna, I want to talk with you first. How are you doing this morning?
I'm glad that it's no longer pouring sheets of water down on top of me.
Right, it's just been a nasty morning. We've been getting pictures of just flooding, and then the wind is insane, and it's supposed to continue to be insane.
The wind is insane. I had a very close call on my drive down to work this morning. They have some temporary fencing up downtown, and I guess it wasn't properly weighted down. So the wind hit it, and this whole section of temporary fencing came flying at my car. Luckily, I have quick reflexes, so I was able to swerve, and I missed it by like this much.
That's terrifying.
So I'm awake.
Yeah, that woke you up if you weren't already awake. But yeah, oh my gosh, that is insane. You know, we're in Midtown, obviously, our station. So like, I always get nervous driving down East Parkway, because of all the trees. I'm always scared that like tree branches are going to come crashing on my car. So yeah, I always get nervous when we hear about this kind of wind, and they said it could get as strong as 60 miles per hour, those wind gusts. So I'm like, oh, I'm not about it. But,
stay safe.
Absolutely, no, for sure. But I want to dive in and talk about this month's edition of Memphis Magazine. I know from looking at it, it is the 2023 Faces of the Mid-South that y'all are kind of showcasing in this one, right?
Yeah. So this is our annual Faces issue. Faces is, for those who aren't familiar, a series of spotlights on local businesses. They are ads, if that's not immediately clear. I feel like we do such a tasteful job of presenting them that sometimes that's not immediately clear. But these are businesses that we've been working with for a long time, and of course we do think the absolute world of them. And that's actually also what helps make it possible for the March issue to be one of our thickest of the year, is the partnerships that we have with these local businesses who are spotlighted in the Faces promotions. So because it is the Faces issue, one thing that we like to do every March is also turn a spotlight onto an area photographer or a photographer with deep Memphis connections. And so we do that in our annual feature that's called The Mind's Eye. We've focused on Houston Cofield, Andrea Morales, Brandon Dill, lots and lots of other really dynamic and exciting photographers. And this year, we decided that Tommy Kah was really the photographer that we wanted to shine a light on, both his life and his work. Tommy is really having a moment. His name, of course, has been in the news locally over the past year or two. But also just having really wonderful success and kind of changing some conversations. So yeah, that's an image of Tommy, as it were, on the cover. And I know Chris McCoy, who's known Tommy for a number of years and wrote the cover story, is here with us as well. So, you know, I really hope that people will pick this one up. And I know we'll turn over to Chris. Before we do, just a few other stories that it might be worth drawing people's attention to. We have a wonderful story on Overton Park. I think a lot of us have sort of noticed that there are many changes in the works at everyone's favorite park. And we wanted to figure out what's going on with all of those different transitions. So we asked Toby Sells to talk to some of the stakeholders about, you know, what's leaving, what's coming, what people can expect, what the history is. So it's sort of a walk in the park. We also have a great story on the artist Gene Siegel, who has a show up at the Dixon. A story about the guitarist Jeff Beck and his connections to Memphis, and just several other really, really wonderful pieces in this issue. So I think it's really worth taking a look at start to finish.
Oh, for sure. And it sounds like a lot of good stuff. I mean, y'all always have good stuff. It's never disappointing. It's always a lot of really good reads. And I love how y'all cover the city. I mean, y'all cover all areas, all aspects. And it's always good to be able to delve into those stories and read them. I always make sure to read from cover to cover. And so it's good stuff. And I loved, you were talking about this cover for this month. And when I first saw it, I was like, this is the coolest looking photo, and obviously it fits. Isn't it? The faces of the Mid-South, and so I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And I remember that in the mind's eye on Houston Cofield from last year, and so. Chris, I'd love to kind of get you on now to kind of dive more into, as Anna said, you've known Tommy for a long time. Let's talk about this cover story.
Yeah, well, I've known Tommy since he was 15 years old, and
wow,
he looked about the same as he did then, but he is a fantastic photographer, and I was really happy to be able to bring this story to Memphis and like tell people more about it. Tommy is a product of an arts community here that is very deep, and a lot of people don't know about, I think. He went to MCA, but before that, he hung around at the Media Co-op, which was a digital media co-op that was a filmmaking sort of collective that was in Cooper Young, and that's where I met him. It was based at the time at First Congo Church, and we went back there for the story. I was kind of difficult to talk Tommy into doing this because he's gotten so much attention lately, and he was being pulled in so many different directions. But he finally made me promise that we would talk about the community and not just talk about him, that we would talk about his, the people that he loves and the people that influenced him. And so that's really where the story went. And I'm really happy because I got to tell people about like things like the Media Co-op. I got to introduce them to a lot of artists that were very influential, on Tommy. And, we have a great art scene here. And Tommy is one of the people that has left the city. He's in New York now, and he's really making a splash on the fine arts scene up there. And that's a really, really difficult scene to break into. Excuse me, famously difficult to break into the New York art world, and he's doing it right now. But I got to stretch out and talk about him for a long time, but I want people to really take a good look at the photographs. We were able to, especially in the physical magazine, we were able to print them really big. and I want people to be able to really soak them in and take a look at them. One of the things that he does is he tries to include his gaze in a lot of he's looking at the camera in a lot of his self-portraits. And he also, does cardboard cutouts and masks. And I think you can see, I have one of his masks right here behind him. So he's actually, he's here with us. In a weird way.
I love that. And really this the eye, that picture there, it really took me back when I first saw it. And then I just kept flipping the page and being impressed and impressed and impressed. Really, his eye for art is really unique. And you can't help but want to just kind of look at it.
Well, I recommend everybody go to the Brooks. He has an installation in the Brooks Museum that's on the rotunda of the Brooks Museum that's called Eyes Another, and it is a photo montage of photographs of sunsets that create an eye that's looking back at you from the rotunda. And he has a little like grassy place where you can lay down and look up, and it's a spectacular piece. And also he has it's called The Ecstasy of Influence that's over at Rhodes College right now. That some of his pieces and some of the people who influenced him as well, which is just a spectacular show. So, these are two great reasons to get out and see art in your community,
Oh, for sure. And I grew up taking art classes through school. My mom was into art. My brother I wish I was as incredible of an artist as my brother. He is incredible. And, but yeah, I've always loved to work with color and things like that. So I love this. Like, this was something that was right up my alley. And like you were talking about the New York art scene, and he's getting that kind of attention. And so it's great to see local artists in Memphis and what they're doing.
Yeah, like I said, you know, people need to know about this art scene here, and it's taken a big blow since MCA closed a few years ago. I mean, that was always bringing new blood in, but we have a really deep and art scene that goes back a long way. And there's lots of great artists, and like I said, I can't recommend the Brooks installation enough. You know, it's right there in the door as you go in. It's in the rotunda, and it's just spectacular. And you know, he insists that you lay down to look up into it to really get the full effect, and it's quite stunning.
I'm gonna have to go check that out, and I will do exactly what he said. I will go in, I will lay down and just take it all in. And yeah, it's good stuff. And I love that you've known him since he was 15, and y'all went back to the co-op to do this interview. And I love it. I love it. It's a great piece too for people that want to snag a copy.
We went to the co-op. We went to we went back to the First Congo Church. We went to Crazy Noodle in Midtown, which is a great Asian restaurant, highly recommended. Right around the corner from you, the W. So if you've never eaten there, I highly recommend that too.
Yeah, let's check it out.
But it was, you know, but Tommy grew up down the street from Graceland, and he still to this day has an obsession with Elvis. And he said he made the iris of the eye, and eye is another blue, because you know Elvis's eyes were blue. You know, so
yeah.
He's a complicated guy. As one of the folks, the curators of the Brooks says, you know, he's just a really smart guy that thinks very deeply, and sometimes, you know, it doesn't. You might look at it and it might sort of roll off of you, but if you really look at what he's doing, I mean, even the puzzle piece picture that we put on the cover. You know, that's he does that sometimes. He'll make puzzles and he'll mix images of his mother's face and his face together. You know, I mean, it's just really it's fascinating stuff. Anyway, I could talk about this all day, but you should go see it yourself, because if you could just talk about it or write about it, then he wouldn't have to make the art.
Exactly. Well, hey, Chris, I love having you on every time. Anna, I'm glad to have you with us as well to kind of break through the pages of this month's edition. Chris, anything else you want to mention before we let you go? And then Anna, I'll get to you.
Hey, I am also glad that we were able to take so much space. You know, this cover story about Tommy Kai is 10 pages long, and just to be able to go that in depth into a subject, and to get the freedom that Anna gave us to do this. You know, Tommy said he didn't want to just do something that we always, you know, just the regular profile piece. He wanted to do something bigger and weirder. And I said, I'm your guy. You want big and weird? That's me. You know, so please, you know, we're very proud of how this came out, and we're very proud of Tommy. And oh well, the other thing we talk about actually is his book. That's where the mask here comes from. It's just out from Aperture Publishing, which is a very prestigious photo press. And you can look at an Aperture website and check it out. It's amazing. It not just has his photographs in it, but it has photographs of his mother. His mother and aunt and grandmother were refugees here that came here after the Vietnam War.
Oh, wow.
And he also includes like his pictures, and then some of the images of his mother when she was young that influenced him, you know, growing up, and he presents some of those as art. And then he also has a lot of pictures that he takes with her as a subject as well. And it's just fascinating stuff, really.
Good deal. Well, hey,
and he's a great representative not only of Memphis, but also of our Asian American community, which we have a large Asian American community here that people don't, you know, I think a lot of people don't talk about that or don't notice it. But there are a lot of, you know, he's a representative of a lot of people who live here in the Mid-South that don't get a lot of recognition normally.
For sure, for sure. Well, hey, Chris, Anna, I appreciate having y'all on. We need to wrap things up here, but we'll see you next time, all right?
Thank you.
All right, how about we take a live look right now? Downtown Memphis. Looks great out there. After what we dealt with on Friday, all that rain, this is a great thing to see this morning. It was a great weekend as well. If you're able to spend any time outside, I know I hung out on one of the patios downtown on Saturday. It was a great day for it, and it's going to be another great one today. Going to have those warm temperatures. Start off a little cool, but all in all, it's going to heat up into, I think, near the 80s later on this afternoon. So something to enjoy. If you have yard work to do, it's going to be a good day to do it. Here's another live look. This is from Midtown Memphis. Got that blue sky out there. But just as we're seeing all of these nicer temperatures out here, you know what that means. We're getting into the spring, the summer months, and that means we're going to be dealing with allergies. We're going to be talking with a physician's assistant with St. Francis Medical Partners in the next little bit, talking about some of the causes, symptoms, best treatment options out there for you. But before we get to all of that, let's head over and get the update on what we can expect throughout the day today and throughout the week from meteorologist Brittany Bryant.
Good morning. Another warm day ahead for us today. Warm again tomorrow as well with a high around 70. You know, average for this point in March is 61 degrees. So we are starting to see that average rise, but a drop in temperatures on Wednesday, and then we'll be back closer to normal with highs in the 60s Thursday through Sunday. But look at next week. High temperatures take another dip, and it looks like we'll have below average temperatures pretty much all of next week. Now, today and tomorrow, we don't have any rain in the forecast, but that drop in temperatures on Wednesday is because of a cold front. And that will bring in some rain, actually a 70% chance of rain Wednesday, high rain chances Thursday, and a few showers early in the morning on Friday too. So let's talk timing. First alert Futurecast, 9 o'clock in the morning, still mostly dry. Now you may squeeze out a stray shower in Arkansas over towards Wynn, but look at Memphis, North Mississippi. We're really not seeing much of that rain at that point. Over the hours in the morning and into the afternoon, you'll get that rain moving in. So by 2 o'clock, widespread heavy rain, especially for eastern Arkansas, where you're seeing those oranges and reds indicating some heavier rain. Over towards West Memphis and Forest City, rain continues on and off throughout the afternoon. By 7 o'clock at night on Wednesday, heavy rain in North Mississippi, a few spotty showers in Memphis, but you actually get more heavy rain arriving just after midnight here Wednesday into early Thursday. And as I mentioned, high rain chances Thursday. You'll probably have on and off rain all day. So with rain Thursday and Wednesday and early Friday, we have about 3 inches of rain in the forecast through Friday morning. In Memphis, about 2.5 inches in Tunica, Helena, close to 2 inches in Holly Springs and Bolivar, and about 1 inch up towards Dyersburg and Blytheville. We do not need any more rain at this point, though. We're about 2.5 inches above normal for the month of March so far, and March just started. So we are slowly going to see those rain chances rise here through the end of the week. So we may tack on another 2 to 3 inches of rain, as I mentioned, to that total that we already have for March. Thankfully, no rain in the forecast today. If you want to do something outside, such a nice afternoon for it. By noon, we're at 73, 1 o'clock, 75 degrees, and a nice southwest wind at about 10 to 15 miles per hour today. So your high on Saturday is 64 degrees. We're at 65 on Sunday, and you have a chance for a stray shower over the weekend, but it does look like we'll be mostly dry here. Temperatures in the upper 70s on Monday, 70 degrees on Tuesday, 50s as I mentioned on Wednesday, and there's that rain in the forecast. And then by the weekend, you'll have a 20% chance of a stray shower on Saturday and Sunday, but rain chances dropping down for the weekend.
And how about another live look right now, our High 5 camera in Midtown Memphis. Really, it's beautiful out there, and these are the kind of days we like. But as I was mentioning, we get into this time of year, we start experiencing things like allergies. And as I told you, joining us now is physician's assistant Victoria Vanacore. She is with St. Francis Medical Partners. Victoria, good morning. How you doing? Is physician's assistant Victoria Vanacore. Victoria, good morning. How you doing? Is physician's assistant Victoria Vanacore. Victoria, good morning. How you doing? Is physician's assistant Victoria Vanacore. Real quick, I'm having some issues. I don't know if you're hearing, it's echoing on your end what I'm saying to you. I'm not sure why it's doing that. I'm sure y'all aren't plugged into headphones or anything, but I'm just trying to figure out why it's echoing back to me when, can you hear me? I'm just trying to figure out why it's echoing back to me when, it's hearing, yes, I'm just hearing myself echo after I say it. Let me see if I can go to something real quick and we can take a look to see maybe why it's doing that. I'm not sure why it's doing that, and we'll come back to you in just a second, okay?
Right now, I want to switch gears here and talk with Ben Johnston. He's on the Action News 5 digital desk, and he's with Capitus, and he's talking about business trends out there. Ben, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you being here. So, you know, a lot of things coming to an end in 2022. We heard recession. We heard all kinds of things, people being laid off. In fact, we saw a lot of tech companies laying off people. Where do we stand right now? We saw some inflation numbers showing that inflation is still about 6.5% or so. Where do we stand right now in terms of the health of the economy?
Well, I think it's a challenging environment for small businesses today, from concerns over the strength of the consumer to inflation, to banks pulling back on their willingness to lend. Across the country, small businesses are working extra hard to make ends meet. And, you know, I think inflation has, you know, a meaningful impact on small businesses right now. So inflation is certainly on the minds of every small business owner. 2022 was a period of relatively high inflation, and the Federal Reserve hiked rates aggressively to bring that inflation down. And to some extent that worked. Rate hikes have slowed inflation, but they really haven't eliminated it, as we just saw in some recent numbers that came out this week. And it's hard to see us, in my opinion, going back to that target 2% inflation rate that the Fed has set out there anytime soon. So as a result, we expect small businesses to experience continued wage growth and demand on higher wages, as well as rising rents, rising cost of goods, and rising cost of capital expenses throughout 2023.
Ben, I'm curious because you were saying similar things that I've heard as well about, you know, we're not going to see inflation go down to 2% anytime in 2023. That's what the forecasters are saying. And I'm also hearing that, you know, the jobs that are being added to the economy are not high-paying jobs right now. They're part of the service industry. They tend to pay a little bit lower. Not that that's anything wrong with those type of jobs. They're just not the high-paying jobs that we've seen. And along with that, rising costs of everything that we're seeing, not only at the grocery store, but at the gas pump. That we've seen. What else? Are there any other trends that we're seeing in 2023? And is there any positive news coming out of 2023 when it comes to the market, the economy, everything?
Yeah, good question. Well, you know, I see some positive news in that employment overall has still remained strong, and as a result of that, the American consumer has remained strong. And let's remember that small businesses, their revenue really comes from the American consumer. And so as long as employment stays, you know, near the levels that it has been, and right now there are 2 jobs for every job seeker, that means the American consumer does have spending power. You're right. Some of the larger tech companies have been pushing through layoffs. Anecdotally, I've heard of a lot of people getting laid off from big companies pretty quickly getting picked up again because smaller companies have just suffered without sufficient technology support for many years, while that wage inflation has grown. But, you know, overall, the American consumer right now is strong. In my opinion, we have to watch very closely the next couple of months as consumers are sort of burning through their excess savings that they had coming out of the pandemic. They're increasing their credit card debt right now. And consumers have really lost the ability to do cash out refinancings on their homes that fueled a lot of consumer spending growth over the last couple of years. Obviously, as interest rates have gone up, the ability to take more money out of your home has gone down. And so, I think we're at this precarious moment where the American consumer is supporting the economy, but the American consumer may not be quite as strong as they were, a year ago today.
So, Ben, if you were to give advice to individuals, both small businesses and individuals, about the current climate, okay, and about 2023 over the next, you said 2 months, but what about a longer projection, 8, 12, 14 months from now? What is that piece of advice? Perhaps it's 3 different levels or so. What would you tell that individual or that small business over the next 8 to 12 to 14 months?
Sure. The first thing I would say is stay vigilant. Keep a close eye on your cash flow and your expenses. I would say don't invest heavily in a new concept until you've explored the market and demonstrated that there's really demand there for what you're looking to do. Explore multiple options for financing, especially if you're a small business and you're looking to grow that small business. Having multiple sources, talking to different providers from your bank to other potential lenders will really help you get a sense of the market. And generally, when markets start to falter, it's liquidity in the market that goes away first. So making sure that you have the access to capital that you need if you're looking to execute on a new strategy or build a new piece of your business, I think that's critically important. On the positive side, it's moments of disruption that really offer new opportunities to small business and consumers alike, because small businesses and consumers are always looking to save money, but especially when times are hard. And it's in that moment that a new business idea that does something that allows people to do something more efficiently, can really take hold and take off. Some of the best businesses in history were started in the middle of recessions. And while we're not predicting a recession here, we are predicting a rocky road, probably for the next year or more. And so, I think it's really important that small businesses and consumers alike keep a tight eye on their cash flow and look for new growth opportunities on an opportunistic basis as they present themselves.
Okay, Ben Johnston, you're really saying stuff this morning. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And I know that advice is very helpful to the thousands of people that watch us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. We appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, during the winter months, we have to worry about a lot of things. We have to worry about our pets, our plants, and our pipes, of course, during those freezing conditions. We also got to worry about those trees. Those trees out there. Are they dead? Is it just winter? Are the leaves going to come back in the spring? A lot of questions out there for some people who may or may not know what's exactly going on, and that's why we're bringing in our arborist, Nathan Baker from Jones Brothers Tree and Landscape. He's back on the digital desk with us this morning. Nathan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Doing well, thanks. So, a lot of times on my way home, I will see some of the trees that I guess are used for almost like a fence a little bit. I guess they're of the pine tree variety, and a lot of them are dead. And I wonder, my wife and I were wondering, is it because they were planted during a certain time and we had that hard freeze right around Christmas time, that Christmas weekend? How do we know when it's dead or when it's just hibernating, for lack of a better term?
All right, so there's a couple things you can do. And as far as your first point asking about, timing for planting, really the winter months are a great time to plant trees because the roots have a chance to harden off. So that's not going to be part of it. But how you can check these trees is you can go and you can scratch with like a fingernail or a key or a little knife, just a tiny spot on the stems. And if you see green underneath that outer layer of bark, that tells you that the tree is alive inside there. You may have some whole limbs that are dead, but it might not be the entire tree that's dead. So that's one of the first ways that you can check.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So, what are some other, kind of good rules to just kind of follow when it comes to whether a tree is gone or a tree is still salvageable?
Okay, so there's going to be kind of 3 signs that your trees are in serious trouble. Okay, so the first would be if the trunk, so that main stem, if that has a split in it or if it shows peeling bark. The second would be weakness from the freeze could cause branches or even whole trees to fall down on your property. And in the last, 2 weeks or so, we've seen a good bit of that with the whole tree failure and trees falling over. And the third thing would be to look for multiple branches with no living buds. Okay, so one important thing to know is that your evergreen trees and shrubs may have lost foliage this year, and the leaves that remain may look brown or burned, and this is to be expected whenever the temperatures dropped as low as they did. We had, around 2 degrees, and when you take into consideration the wind chill, we're talking well below 0, and the trees in Memphis just are not used to that kind of cold. But that doesn't necessarily mean that your tree is doomed. But when you also notice the major issues, it's time to consult with an arborist.
Yeah, I was going to say, what is the worst kind of weather that is so harmful for some of the trees? Is it, an excess of water and some of the heavy storms that we've been dealing with, or is it the freezing conditions we had, for example, Christmas weekend? I mean, is it both?
It's really a combination of all of them, right? So if we have a lot of rain and the ground gets saturated and soft, then you have some winds come through, it can topple trees very easily. And then if we have freezing rain, which we've also experienced, you could have limbs breaking or whole tree failure. And then the very low temperatures will cause individual limbs or buds to die on these trees.
Okay, so now let's say, I go and I find out that there are, several trees that are dead. Now what do we do? Give us the next steps.
Okay, so think about your shrubs that are usually green all year. So you're talking about the evergreen trees planted in a row. Those are green all year. Could be holly trees, could be little cypress trees or arborvitaes. Now, if they have brown leaves, the name of the game is waiting. So we may not know until spring that these trees may be dead. They may leaf back out. And then another thing to keep in mind is that if you have flowering shrubs like azaleas or magnolias, is a lot of those blooms may not happen this year because of the freeze damage, but the shrub or the tree may still live throughout the season. So it might need just that one recovery year before it can really start giving that good color again.
All really good ideas and really good advice, Nathan. Is there anything else that we can touch on with regards to this topic that our viewers who are watching should know?
Okay. So there's some general kind of maintenance that you should keep in mind. I would look at mulching, right? So if you have properly mulched, so you want to get, a 2 to 3 inch layer of mulch around the tree, but you don't want it directly up against the trunk. You want to have about kind of 1 to 2 inch gap directly around the trunk of the tree. And if you mulch that can help keep the soil moisture at proper levels. Now, right now, that doesn't seem like a big issue, right? Because we're getting plenty of rain. The ground is wet. But now, once we hit summer months, this is going to help because these trees will have the soil moisture that they need to grow and to keep thriving. If you see major damage, such as cracked trunks, cracked limbs, it would be a good idea to get an arborist to evaluate that tree and help you safely remove those limbs if needed.
All right. Well, how about the spring, the summer months? I know I'm looking forward to them. It's starting to feel like that outside here in the Mid-South. But of course, with that comes allergy season, and no one likes that. The sniffles, the sneezing, the itchy eyes. Well, joining us now to talk more about how to deal with it, the best treatment options, is physician's assistant Victoria Vanacore. She is with St. Francis Medical Partners. Good morning. How's it going?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad to have you on. I'm glad that audio is working perfectly and we can get things going. So I guess let's go ahead and dive in and just talk about some of the causes that lead to these allergies that are just so
Yeah, so here in the Memphis area, we rank in the top 3 cities for seasonal allergies. The springtime especially can be very brutal here. It is not the flowers really to blame for the spring allergies, as much as the tree pollens. Right now, a lot of the trees are in bloom. Pecan, walnut, cedar, birch willow, all of these are the most predominant allergies that we are seeing in the springtime here in this area.
And so let's go ahead and talk about the symptoms. You're mentioning it is awful here in the Mid-South when it comes to allergies. I have friends that moved from other parts of the country to Memphis, and they're just like, I never had allergies, and now I'm dealing with the mess of them. And now they're like, I understand why it's so annoying. So let's just talk about some of the symptoms that some people experience with this type of thing.
Absolutely. So allergy symptoms can range from a mere inconvenience to really debilitating symptoms. Most commonly, itchy eyes, watery eyes, runny nose, stuffy nose, nasal congestion. It varies, from person to person. But like I said, here in the Mid-South, if you're an allergy sufferer, this is a tough time of year for a lot of people. Some people get that ear fullness where your ears feel really clogged. And again, that's just all due to this pollen.
And I guess the big thing people want to know is if I'm dealing with this, if all of a sudden, I'm dealing with the itchy eyes, the kind of the cold-like symptoms, what are some of the best ways to maybe handle something like that? Is it something like Claritin, or what would you recommend for people to be able to kind of help ease those symptoms?
Absolutely. So over the counter, we have a lot of medications that are available for us to combat these allergies. I usually recommend to my patients starting on these antihistamines usually in February or so that we can build that antihistamine level up in our system, so we're ready when everything is in full bloom, which is usually by the beginning of March here. As you can see, these last few days have been pretty bad with the pollen. So Claritin, Zyrtec, Allegra, those are all over-the-counter options that are good. Of course, speaking with your medical provider to see what's best for you is certainly important. There are also nasal sprays available that contain steroids, such as Flonase or Nasonex, also available over the counter. So we do have a lot of options, and it's very important that we educate our patients on what those options are.
And I think a lot of people sometimes don't. Is there a difference when you talk about having a cold and allergies? Because a lot of times it seems like the symptoms are very similar. At what point would you maybe say, I need to go see a doctor? Or is there really much of a difference when you start to think about the symptoms and whatnot?
So there is. Typically, of course, the symptoms do overlap. Common cold is caused by a virus. Viruses tend to run their course 5 to 10 days in most healthy people. Viruses resolve. So the problem with allergy symptoms is if they are not managed, these symptoms persist for a very long time, throughout the entire season sometimes. So you're talking about months. The other thing is, viruses, colds tend to cause fever, whereas allergies do not. So that's a real big indicator. If you're not running a fever, but you're just constantly congested with those symptoms, then you really should consider that it is allergy.
Good advice, good information there. Anything else you want to mention as far as preventative type measures that people can take? Do dehumidifiers help? Is there other things outside of just the medications that can help?
Absolutely. So, some people are a little hesitant to take something every day. We have other options. You can simply use a nasal saline, which is just salt water to help flush your nasal cavities, flush those sinus cavities. Also changing the air filters in your home. In the wintertime, these mold spores just go inactive, and as the spring comes, these reactivate. So changing those filters out, most filters will tell you every 90 days to change them. So every spring, definitely, get those filters changed. If you're working outside, if you're doing yard work, wearing an N95 mask is very helpful so that you are not inhaling all of these allergens.
Good tips there. And outside of just the spring and summer and the allergy season and whatnot, I know a week from now we're going to be springing forward, so we're going to lose an hour of sleep. And of course, they talk about how that can have impacts on your body and that sort of thing. Do you have any advice for people as we go to make that shift to maybe help ease that transition a little bit?
Yes, so daylight savings is always a tough time of year. Losing that hour of sleep is never easy, especially when you have young kids at home. You know, they don't quite understand the time change either. One thing I always recommend is starting early, even now, about a week in advance, just going to bed about 15 minutes earlier each night so that you can prepare yourself for that time change so that you're still getting your solid sleep every night. You know, ideally 7 to 9 hours per night is the sleep that our bodies require. And when you lose that hour, if you don't prepare early, you could find yourself extremely tired that day of daylight savings.
And for me, I will say I do like I don't like losing the hour of sleep. I don't think anybody does. But I will say that I do enjoy having that additional sunlight in the evenings and whatnot. I mean, are there benefits to having that additional sunlight when it comes to that sort of thing?
There is. Our bodies need sunlight. We need to make sure we're getting adequate sunlight. That increases the serotonin levels in our brain and allows us to function well every day. So definitely getting up and getting that sunlight, you know, taking advantage. You know, the days are a little bit longer. We do have a little more sunlight as far as, you know, the sun setting later since that clock goes forward. So definitely make sure you're getting plenty of sunlight. You know, if we can be outside, getting that light, getting our exercise, staying in a routine too with our sleep. It's important to wind down in the evening times, have a good nighttime routine, whether that's reading a book or just laying in a nice quiet dark room. Getting those screens put away. A lot of people on their iPads or iPhones at night, that could be very detrimental to our sleeping habits. So daylight savings aside, we want to make sure we are putting those devices down at least 1 to 2 hours before heading into bed for the evening.
For sure, people don't realize how important sleep is when it comes to their overall health. Victoria Vanacore, physician's assistant with St. Francis Medical Partners, I appreciate your time this morning, and you have a good rest of the day, all right?
Thank you so much.
Well, how about we take another live look, our High 5 camera here in Midtown Memphis. It is beautiful out there, and we're expected to have some really nice temperatures today. Could get up into the 80s, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready for the summer and the spring. It's one of my favorite times of the year, and so, yeah, we're going to have some nice weather today. It started off a little cool, but all in all, not too bad. But before we hop into any more news of the day, how about we get a check of your forecast from meteorologist Brittany Bryant.
Good morning. Another warm day ahead for us today. Warm again tomorrow as well with a high around 70. You know, average for this point in March is 61 degrees. So we are starting to see that average rise, but a drop in temperatures on Wednesday, and then we'll be back closer to normal with highs in the 60s Thursday through Sunday. But look at next week, high temperatures take another dip, and it looks like we'll have below average temperatures pretty much all of next week. Now today and tomorrow, we don't have any rain in the forecast, but that drop in temperatures on Wednesday is because of a cold front. And that will bring in some rain, actually a 70% chance of rain Wednesday, high rain chances Thursday, and a few showers early in the morning on Friday too. So let's talk timing. First alert Futurecast, 9 o'clock in the morning, still mostly dry. Now you may squeeze out a stray shower in Arkansas over towards Wynn, but look at Memphis, North Mississippi. We're really not seeing much of that rain at that point. Over the hours in the morning and into the afternoon, you'll get that rain moving in. So by 2 o'clock, widespread heavy rain, especially for eastern Arkansas, where you're seeing those oranges and reds indicating some heavier rain. Over towards West Memphis and Forest City, rain continues on and off throughout the afternoon. By 7 o'clock at night on Wednesday, heavy rain in North Mississippi, a few spotty showers in Memphis, but you actually get more heavy rain arriving just after midnight here Wednesday into early Thursday. And as I mentioned, high rain chances Thursday. You'll probably have on and off rain all day. So with rain Thursday and Wednesday and early Friday. We have about 3 inches of rain in the forecast through Friday morning in Memphis, about 2.5 inches in Tunica, Helena, close to 2 inches in Holly Springs and Bolivar, and about 1 inch up towards Dyersburg and Blytheville. We do not need any more rain at this point, though. We're about 2.5 inches above normal for the month of March so far, and March just started. So we are slowly going to see those rain chances rise here through the end of the week. So we may tack on another 2 to 3 inches of rain, as I mentioned, to that total that we already have for March. Thankfully, no rain in the forecast today. If you want to do something outside, such a nice afternoon for it. By noon, we're at 73, 1 o'clock, 75 degrees, and a nice southwest wind at about 10 to 15 miles per hour today. So your high on Saturday is 64 degrees. We're at 65 on Sunday, and you have a chance for a stray shower over the weekend, but it does look like we'll be mostly dry here. Temperatures in the upper 70s on Monday, 70 degrees on Tuesday, 50s as I mentioned on Wednesday, and there's that rain in the forecast. And then by the weekend, you'll have a 20% chance of a stray shower on Saturday and Sunday, but rain chances dropping down for the weekend.
All right, well, International Women's Day is coming up on Wednesday, and so I thought it would be a great opportunity for us to bring in 2 power women that are doing great things, entrepreneurs, and doing some really cool stuff. And they actually met at Middle Tennessee State University. They shared a dorm together, so just next door to Memphis and Nashville, the Nashville area. And so joining me now, they've now actually started up a company called CrowdSurf. And so I want to dive into this and really talk about what they're doing and what advice they would have for women that are wanting to become entrepreneurs. There's so many people out there with great ideas. It's just, how do we do it? And so joining us now, this is Cassie Petrie, I believe. I was watching one of your earlier interviews, so that's why I recognize you. And Jade Driver, good morning, ladies. How are y'all doing?
We're doing good. Good morning to you too. Thank you for having us.
You know,
Good morning.
Good morning, Jade. I know it's going to be a little interesting since we're on Zoom and it'll flip back and forth from person to person, but I'm not sure who wants to tackle this one, but just kind of talking about your story. Y'all met over a love for the Backstreet Boys, which I love the Backstreet Boys too. I went to one of their recent concerts in the St. Louis area, so love them. But I guess let's talk about your story, how y'all kind of came together and really built something that is really, really cool. Who wants to take this one?
Jade can go first.
All right.
Yeah, so I met, it was 2005 actually at MTSU. Industry program there, and we realized, hey, we have this thing in common. We really love the Backstreet Boys, and so I think we both had this kind of pipe dream in our head that maybe one day in the music industry we could work for them. And so we just really worked together, put our head down, let our work really show for itself, and eventually they called. And now we've been working with them for about 10 years. Running the company CrowdSurf, doing digital marketing, artist management, artist branding, and content creation for 15 years. And it has, I don't know where the years have gone.
It just sounds like such a cool journey. And I mean, Nashville, it's hard. It's a tough industry. The music industry is tough. And I guess as 2 women kind of taking on this industry by storm and getting to where you are now, what advice would you have maybe for younger people out there that are now, you know, there's so many people that are going towards social media to be able to kind of build a brand and to really grow and to kind of be in charge of their own destiny, their own hours and that sort of thing. In a tough industry like the one that y'all took by storm, what advice would you have? I mean, what was it that you think really helped you along the way?
I would say something that's important, whether you want to be an artist in the music business behind the scenes or really kind of in any sort of creative industries, to figure out how you do something different than everyone else. Coming in and trying to start a business that somebody else already has and you're making like a little copy of it, that doesn't work. I think the reason our business worked is because there wasn't social media marketing companies at the time when we started. There wasn't a job called social media manager, community manager. We were different, but we saw a need for what we were doing. So I think you look within yourself, figure out what you have that's maybe a little bit different than everyone else, but is still exciting to you, and figure out how you offer that service to other people and help other people with that different skill that you have.
I was really looking forward to talking with you. I'm actually working to get my master's in digital media management, so I was like, this is going to be a great interview. I'm excited, and of course, we're digital. This is our digital desk, and so much is going towards that digital side of things. And like you said, it's like finding a niche, and sometimes I think that can be hard. Were there some sort of skills that you kind of have built, whether it's from just past experience early in life, that really helped set y'all up to be able to say, hey, this is going to be something different, it's going to set us apart, and then just having those skills to help make it happen and to be successful? Was there something that you learned growing up, or in your younger years, that really helped you along the way?
Jade, I'll let you take it.
I think Cassie and I think we've learned that our talent is marketing. And I think we were kind of born with that drive to see great products and see how people interact with them and purchase them. And I think it was a really interesting time when we started CrowdSurf. Social media was not a household name yet. People were just trying to start, using it. At the time, there was really, there was Facebook, and then, MySpace was around, and then you slowly got Twitter and YouTube and all these things. And really the key advantage that we had was that we were, in our early 20s in college, and we were using these platforms. So just for, for fun and as normal people, we were using these platforms, and we really saw the potential to use them as a marketing tool. So it was an interesting time where this was becoming something that everyday humans were using on an everyday basis. And really, there was no one in the music industry that was an expert at it yet. So the people that were experts at it were the young people really using the technology back then. So we saw this opportunity where, hey, we know this stuff inside and out. We use it for hours a day, talking to our friends, interacting with people. And I think there's a way to use it really as a marketing tool, since you kind of always in marketing have to go where the people are. That's why people buy billboards, because people are on the roads. They buy TV commercials because people are watching TV. Now people are on social media. How do we market something to them? So we really had an opportunity to show that that was a viable marketing source, just by kind of being the age we were and being excited about social media.
And let me just say, I loved MySpace. I hate that we don't have it anymore. But I mean, in the music industry, I mean, that was a way that I discovered artists that I had not ever heard of before. And so I really miss that platform. But then you have other platforms now. By the way, I remember when Facebook, you had to have a university account to actually even have a profile on Facebook. So just the evolution in itself. But now there's Instagram and there's TikTok, and they're all playing a part in the growth of the music industry and people that are trying to be discovered and that sort of thing. How should people be using these to maybe help build their brand in that sort of way? There's so many artists here in Memphis, too, that are just getting started. Is there any advice that maybe either of you would like to give? Cassie, do you want to touch on this one?
Yeah, for sure. This is, I think, something that we're dealing with our clients on an ongoing basis, on a daily basis, is how do we tackle TikTok in particular, and obviously Instagram is still really important. And this kind of loops back around to what we were talking about earlier, where it's important to be different. Doing what everyone else is doing on TikTok is probably not going to be as successful as the person that you're mimicking, because they already had success with it. And by the time you're creating your video and have discovered it, it's probably dated and old at that point. So you just have to figure out how you're different and what feels authentic to you. In video, you can't hide that what you're making is not you. So you have to really like what you're making and believe in it, and figure out, kind of take a step back from TikTok and trends and that sort of thing, and really look at it for what it is. TikTok is a platform where you upload videos. That is all TikTok is. And so you think about, what videos am I going to put on TikTok that reflect my artistry or reflect my brand or whatever you're trying to promote on there. But it really has to feel like it's you, and like you're not copying somebody or doing it because you feel like you have to. You have to be like what you're making, and you have to be proud of what you're posting on social media.
And I mean, ever since the pandemic, I feel like so many people are tapping into that influencer type of job where they can do that as their full-time career. International Women's Day is Wednesday. For those female entrepreneurs out there, what advice would you have when it comes to the social media marketing, kind of tapping in and helping to expand their brand and business? Because we've seen some where people have been able to do that here locally.
I can take this one. I just think that in general, if you're, a woman in music or any business trying to figure out how to take advantage of social media and you haven't really had that experience before, go into the situation. You don't start CrossFit and go on lifting 250 pounds. Just make a goal for you to always do better the last week or better the last month than you did before. So if you don't have a TikTok account, get started this month and post 1 or 2 TikToks. That's progress from the previous month. You don't have to go in and do quote unquote best practices and be posting like 5 videos a week. Go in and just do better than you did the week before, but get in the sandbox and play with everyone and play where the people are at. That's how you get started. And your first TikTok may not be great. It may not go. You have to start being kind of not good and practicing to become good. Practice with making this kind of content makes you better at it. So you just have to get in there and participate, and you have to try. And if you keep trying, it'll eventually work for you.
It's interesting because, even here in the news industry, people are getting their news from TikTok. And so we're also tapping in and trying to figure out where is the right way to kind of reach that audience. Jade, is there any last closing remarks you would want to make? Any last advice that you would want to send out to people that are watching us this morning?
My advice is always ask for what you want and let it be known what you want. I learned that very early on and just started asking. It's kind of the simple theory that if you don't ask, you're not going to get. If you do, you might. So ask for as many things as you want. Make sure you know your worth and let it be known what you are trying to accomplish.
I think that's good advice. I think a lot of times we can get in our own way. We've done stories where we've talked to doctors about things like imposter syndrome. And do you think sometimes that when you have that almost can help drive you more sometimes if you're, just throwing it out there. Is that something you dealt with personally, maybe struggling with imposter syndrome? So many women do, from what we've heard just by talking to doctors in the past.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Cassie.
Oh, I was just going to say, this is something that I talk to a lot of people about, and I think everyone's always had this feeling. We just never knew what term to call it. So imposter syndrome has become a term that a lot of people have been using the past couple years. And I think imposter syndrome, everything in moderation. But I think if you look at the positive side of it, I think it can be a good thing, because if you're having imposter syndrome about something, it shows that you care about the situation, you care about the job, you care about the role in it, and you want to perform and care about doing a good job. So whenever I'm sort of having that feeling, I kind of try to reposition it in my head and think about, oh, this just means this matters to me. It doesn't mean that I'm not supposed to be here. And that's really helped me a lot in situations where I'm feeling a little self-conscious and underqualified.
I think a lot of times when it comes to anything like that, it's just acknowledging it and then being able to kind of talk through it and realize that maybe you're just in your head too. But I think it's something that so many women deal with. So good advice there and good thoughts. And this has been a great interview. Cassie, I've appreciated your time. Jade, it's been good talking to both of y'all, and y'all have a great one. I'm wishing you all the success in the upcoming year.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, and good luck on your studies. I'm sure you'll do some great stuff.
Thanks so much. I'm hoping to get done. I have one more class, and then I should be able to wrap things up. So I'm looking forward to it. It's been a journey trying to balance everything. So, well, y'all have a great one. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. You have a good one too.
Thank you. All right, so let's get back into some of the news of the day. There's so much talk going on right now with the Memphis Grizzlies, Ja Morant, and what's next, because he's suspended for at least 2 games, and then we hear talk that we're not sure when he's going to be back on the court. The Memphis Grizzlies back in action, though, against the Clippers. However, like we mentioned, Ja Morant and Dillon Brooks did not join them on the court. However, they did have All-Star Jaren Jackson and another star caliber player, Desmond Bane, in the action, in the mix. But despite that star power, the Grizzlies trailed 67-61 at the half. Unfortunately, ended up with a loss, 129-135. And we'll be talking more about that situation with John Morant coming up a little bit later on the Action News 5 digital desk. As for the Memphis Tigers, they could have not asked for a better regular season finale. The Tigers took on #1 team in the country, Houston, and it was the first time they ever hosted the #1 team at the FedEx Forum. It was a sold-out crowd on Beale Street. 6 players were honored during the game, but it was without a doubt one of the games of the year in college basketball. But the Tigers fell. Heartbreaker, 67-65. However, after the game, Kendrick Davis made it known that this team is not afraid of Houston.
They beatable, you know what I'm saying? Like, I really don't look at them like that. Like, they don't, they don't fear me. I don't think they guards are great. Like, I live for these moments. And man, hats off to Jamal Shead, made 2 big time plays. I think, me personally, I think that's their engine. That's their best player to me. So he made big time shots, and hats off to them.
Penny Hardaway took to the mic post-game to address the crowd, saying in part, "Our season's not over. We're going to go to the NCAA tournament and keep fighting for the city of Memphis." Well, I want to talk about a few other things that we have on deck here at the Action News 5 digital desk. As you know, it is Memphis Black Restaurant Week, and Sydney Hawkins has more on what you can expect throughout the week, maybe some of the spots and nooks and crannies you want to make sure you check out. Also, Nike responding to that situation with John Morant, where there was video of him in a club waving a gun, leading to 2 suspensions. So we're going to be talking more about that and getting reaction from Nike, who, of course, has utilized John Morant in campaigns. Also, checking your trees. We're getting into the spring and summer months. The winter was pretty harsh on a lot of the foliage around the area, so we're going to talk with an arborist, and he's going to help fill you in on things to look out for, because if you have a dead tree, it can be very dangerous to your property. It could fall or damage any other types of property around your home, like a car or something like that. So, of course, we're going to give you all the information that you need to make sure you can handle that situation. Let's stick with some more sports, though. A few Tigers women's players received AAC honors. The leading scorer, Jamara Schutz, was named to the conference's 2nd team, while their all-time leader in 3-pointers, Madison Griggs, is AAC 3rd team, plus Destiny Thomas was named to the conference's all-freshman team. The Tigers will play in the quarterfinals of the AAC tournament on Tuesday against the winner of UCF and Tulsa. That's expected to take place today. Diving into some health news, the FDA proposed new draft guidelines last week that would allow plant-based milk to keep using the word milk on their packages. And so some lawmakers in Washington say that's unfair to dairy farmers and have now introduced legislation to try to stop those products from using dairy terms on their packaging. Our Washington News Bureau reporter Stetson Miller tells us more about why.
Oat, soy, and other plant-based drinks can keep calling themselves milk, according to draft guidelines released by the Food and Drug Administration at the end of February. But for a long time, dairy farmers and advocates have argued that they shouldn't be allowed to keep using dairy's name. Wisconsin Senator Tammy Baldwin agrees, and she recently reintroduced the Dairy Pride Act in Congress. It would require plant-based products to relabel themselves without using terms like milk and cheese.
If you look at a dairy case these days, you find imitation products all over the place. The Food and Drug Administration is simply not doing enough to hold folks to account for using these dairy terms for imitation products.
She says calling plant-based products milk implies a nutritional equivalency and says that's an issue for dairy farmers.
Our small and medium-sized dairy farms have had a lot of challenges. This doesn't need to be another one.
Supporters of the legislation say cows produce second-to-none milk. They argue it's just dishonest branding to use the word milk on plant-based products. But others disagree, including the FDA, saying consumers already know the difference between dairy and alternative milks.
And it's really an anti-competitive bill that's just meant to protect the traditional dairy industry.
Madeline Cohen is the senior regulatory attorney at the Good Food Institute, a group that advocates for plant-based products. She points out that the FDA said in its proposed guidance that consumers understand that plant-based products are distinctly different from milk.
They're buying these products specifically because they're not cow's milk.
That said, the FDA is recommending that the makers of alternative milks put labeling on their packaging that note the nutritional differences between dairy and their products. If the guidelines are finalized, the recommendations would be voluntary, but companies are expected to comply. In Washington, I'm Stetson Miller.
Good morning. I'm Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk, and we're going to talk about a very serious topic that some might call an epidemic here in the United States, and that's obesity. And of course, it can lead to several different types of health risks. And so joining me now to help talk more about this is Dr. Lee Daigle, bariatric physician with Methodist Medical Group Weight Management and Wellness Center. Dr. Daigle, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Glad to have you on. Doing well, except for the rain that we're dealing with today. But all in all, not too bad. Of course, we were talking about obesity. It just continues to be an epidemic here in the U.S. It's a problem that a lot of people struggle with. In fact, I was looking at some numbers, and nearly 40% of our population is considered obese, which I think is pretty alarming, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, very much so. And that number is expected to increase to about 50% by 2030, which is in 7 years, which is even more alarming.
Wow. What could you say? I mean, obviously it's a problem, and you saying that this is going to grow even more. It's expected to grow even more. What is it that you feel is contributing to that here in the U.S. specifically?
It's multifactorial. It's not very simple. Of course, diet and lifestyle activity people know about, those do contribute, but it also involves genetics, medical conditions, mental health, our sleep patterns. There are a lot of things that have changed over the last several decades that have contributed to this. Our food system, access to different types of food and healthy food, they tend to be more expensive. And so there are a lot of things that contribute to where we are numbers-wise and where we are headed.
And obviously that has a lot of health impacts. Can we talk about some of the things that, when you are obese, there are several things that can come of that. I know my dad, he was borderline diabetic, didn't heed the warning of trying to lose some weight, and of course he ended up with diabetes, but there are several other health factors that can come into play when you're dealing with something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, there are metabolic consequences as example is diabetes. There are over 200 medical conditions that are either caused by or worsened by obesity, which is staggering. Several different types of cancers, including female cancers like breast cancer. Of course, heart disease we know about, sleep apnea, lung conditions. Obesity, the disease of obesity affects every organ system that you can think of, musculoskeletal, kidney, everything.
And one thing that I think is interesting, there's a lot of shows out there like 1,000-Pound Friends and things like that, where these individuals, they realize they have these health problems. They are like, this is going to kill me if I don't do something. And they go get that surgery, and you immediately see the impact, not only in their health, but their overall self-worth and the way that they feel about themselves. For maybe those people that struggle to shed that weight, where they're just saying, I feel like I'm doing what I can. Do you have any kind of tips or strategies or things that maybe could help them out?
Yeah, so obviously increasing your activity helps, and that can be in small steps. It doesn't have to be huge chunks of time if you're limited in time. It doesn't have to be super strenuous if you have physical limitations to your activity. It can be simple, using the stairs, parking farther away when you go to the store, walking around the store several times while you're shopping. So it can be really simple increases in activity. Limiting processed foods also helps, increasing your fruits and vegetables, eating them as naturally as you can get them. Those are all things that can help and can improve your health and your weight. Discussing your weight with your physician also can be helpful. There are some medications that cause weight gain and contribute to weight gain, and so that can be adjusting those medications and switching to other ones can be helpful.
And, I know you were talking about increasing your activity. It seems like in the world today, especially after the pandemic, people don't necessarily have to leave their home anymore. A lot of people work from home now. A lot of people can even get their groceries delivered to their home. Do you think that's something else that maybe is contributing to this? And even what you said, the idea that maybe the percentage of people that are obese in the United States is going to go up even more, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. We've seen a big rise in obesity numbers since COVID. Because of everything that you mentioned. Everything can be ordered online, delivered to your house. People are working from home. And some of the people working from home may not go back into work. They're realizing, a lot of companies are realizing that they can be just as effective with remote access to their employees. So it absolutely contributes. And there are lots of things you can also get delivered to your house, like resistance bands for when you have breaks at work, or ellipticals that sit under your desk, or standing desks where you can stand up and take breaks throughout the day. So there are other things you can build in that can help you in the right direction.
And like you said, it can just be some easy steps and easy things that you can incorporate in your day-to-day. And it's not necessarily like, a lot of people I think go in and they're like, I have to change my entire life and I'm going to restrict and I'm only going to eat these foods. And then they feel like it's just too much to manage. But like you said, there could just be simple things that people just start with one thing. I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk around the block once a day, and then eventually building in more things that maybe you want to implement. Is that some advice that you think would maybe, do you think that's what people struggle with a lot of times when it comes to thinking about losing weight, is they just get overwhelmed by it all?
Yeah, absolutely. Most people think that they have to overhaul everything that they've been doing for their entire life in a month span. The best thing to do would be to make small, healthy changes that you can maintain. So really, lifestyle changes are more important than diet, and something that's more profound that won't be able to be maintained.
And with the patients that you see, do you feel like sometimes it's not, a lot of times there's a lot of mental aspects that go with weight management and lifestyle changes. Is that a big part of it too, would you say?
Yeah, it is. When you're physically unable to do the things that bring you joy that you want to do, that impacts your mental health, it impacts your mood, it impacts your interpersonal relationships. And so as the weight comes down, all of those things get better and you feel like you can better live your life and have a better quality of life.
For sure. Well, Dr. Daigle, this has been insightful. I've enjoyed talking to you. Is there anything that you feel like we missed that you want to make sure that we hit on for our viewers out there?
I don't think so. We're here to help. So if you have made all these changes and are not getting the results that you would like, we're here for you at the Methodist Weight Management Clinic. We have 2 bariatric surgeons if you want to go surgical. You have myself for the medical weight loss, and we have 2 dietitians who are fantastic. We have lots of resources that can help.
And real quick, when do people know that they should go and maybe seek help from a physician, especially when it comes to surgery?
That's variable. It depends on the patient. Some people, most people that we see have struggled with weight off and on for their lives. Some just decades, but everybody's different. Everybody has their own threshold. And when you feel like you've done everything that you can do and you're needing help, and sometimes even before that, if you don't want to get to the point where you feel like you've done everything and you need help early, that's okay too. It's different for everybody.
All right, bariatric physician Dr. Lee Daigle, we appreciate your time this morning and you getting this information out to our viewers. You have a good one, all right?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. You too.
Good morning. Another warm day ahead for us today. Warm again tomorrow as well with a high around 70. You know, average for this point in March is 61 degrees. So we are starting to see that average rise, but a drop in temperatures on Wednesday, and then we'll be back closer to normal with highs in the 60s Thursday through Sunday. But look at next week. High temperatures take another dip, and it looks like we'll have below average temperatures pretty much all of next week. Now today and tomorrow, we don't have any rain in the forecast, but that drop in temperatures on Wednesday is because of a cold front. And that will bring in some rain, actually a 70% chance of rain Wednesday, high rain chances Thursday, and a few showers early in the morning on Friday too. So let's talk timing. First alert Futurecast, 9 o'clock in the morning, still mostly dry. Now you may squeeze out a stray shower in Arkansas over towards wind, but look at Memphis, North Mississippi. We're really not seeing much of that rain at that point. Over the hours in the morning and into the afternoon, you'll get that rain moving in. So by 2 o'clock, widespread heavy rain, especially for eastern Arkansas, where you're seeing those oranges and reds indicating some heavier rain. Over towards West Memphis and Forest City, rain continues on and off throughout the afternoon. By 7 o'clock at night on Wednesday, heavy rain in North Mississippi, a few spotty showers in Memphis, but you actually get more heavy rain arriving just after midnight here Wednesday into early Thursday. And as I mentioned, high rain chances Thursday. You'll probably have on and off rain all day. So with rain Thursday and Wednesday and early Friday, we have about 3 inches of rain in the forecast through Friday morning in Memphis, about 2.5 inches in Tunica, Helena, close to 2 inches in Holly Springs and Bolivar, and about 1 inch up towards Dyersburg and Blytheville. We do not need any more rain at this point, though. We're about 2.5 inches above normal for the month of March so far, and March just started. So we are slowly going to see those rain chances rise here through the end of the week. So we may tack on another 2 to 3 inches of rain, as I mentioned, to that total that we already have for March. Thankfully, no rain in the forecast today. If you want to do something outside, such a nice afternoon for it. By noon, we're at 73, 1 o'clock, 75 degrees and a nice southwest wind at about 10 to 15 miles per hour today. So your high on Saturday is 64 degrees. We're at 65 on Sunday, and you have a chance for a stray shower over the weekend, but it does look like we'll be mostly dry here. Temperatures in the upper 70s on Monday, 70 degrees on Tuesday, 50s as I mentioned on Wednesday, and there's that rain in the forecast. And then by the weekend, you'll have a 20% chance of a stray shower on Saturday and Sunday, but rain chances dropping down for the weekend.
Good morning. I'm Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk, and I want to tell you about a new thought-provoking campaign that is highlighting the unique stories of people with multiple myeloma, a currently incurable type of blood cancer with over 34,000 new cases estimated to be diagnosed in the United States in 2023. Told True is a campaign that features people with multiple myeloma along with artists who are bringing their stories to life through spoken and visual art, helping those feeling the impact. They're feeling heard. They are also feeling connected and empowered against this disease. And so joining me now to talk more about all of this is Oya, an advocate for health equity in the Black community. He was diagnosed with multiple myeloma in 2017. He joins us now along with spoken word artist Jay to talk about taking part in Told True and how the multiple myeloma community can participate, come together, feel heard. And I'm so glad to have both of you joining us this morning. How are you doing?
We're doing good.
Fantastic. It's great to be here.
And I think it's great that we're opening the dialogue and talking about this. So let's just start by talking about what myeloma is and how you were both diagnosed, or how you were diagnosed. I'm sorry, Oya.
No worries. Well, multiple myeloma is a cancer of the plasma cells in the bone marrow that is currently incurable. And I was, as you stated earlier, I was diagnosed in 2017, the day after Christmas. What a Christmas present. But prior to that, I was very sick for a few years, and I was just trying to figure out what was going on with me. I went to all kinds of doctors and I've seen every ologist you could think of, and nobody could come up with what was really wrong with me. So I wound up being in a situation where I went to my insurance company and they sent their folks out to do some testing. And that's when they discovered the abnormal protein in my system, and that led to my diagnosis.
Wow, what a story. And like you said, the day after Christmas, I can't even imagine emotionally what that was like. And then going through that whole process of not knowing what's going on and finally figuring it out. How has it been for you? And I do want to hear more about the Told True campaign, because I think this is probably something that's so helpful for people that are dealing with this. So let's just talk about, just the emotions that you've gone through, how you've got involved, and why you got involved with this campaign.
Sure. Through the process in this journey, it has been challenging, emotionally, physically, and mentally, spiritually. I pressed on through, going through support groups and then becoming heavily involved in being an advocate for this disease. And I got involved with the Multiple Myeloma Told True campaign because it just felt right. It felt right for a multitude of different reasons, but more importantly, the focus that they have pairing us up with artists like Jay to tell our story and hopefully get folks inspired. But it's all about keeping on and having hope, and that's what's helped me through this journey. A lot of laughing and a lot of smiling.
And Jay, I want to talk with you now because obviously Oya's story inspired you, and you created a spoken word poem about his journey. So let's just talk about, what this was like for you to be involved.
Yes, no, Oya's story is incredibly inspirational, and his voice is powerful all on its own. So really, when we met, I was inspired by the way that he used such poetic and beautiful language, to describe to me what he was going through. And when we met, he talked to me about just how he started living, moment to moment and appreciating the small moments in his life. And so that's ultimately what became kind of the refrain of the poem that I ended up writing, is just talking about those moments, the moments that he got to spend time with his children, work on his music and the things that he likes. And he also spoke to me about, his struggles, feeling seen and heard and understood, and getting his diagnosis, as a Black man. And that really resonated with me as something very important to talk about, to spread awareness of. And so it was a very seamless partnership, I would say. And I think we produced a great story working with this partnership, with Pfizer and everything.
Absolutely. And I guess I'm interested, Jay, how did you hear about this campaign, and what have you learned about being a part of it?
Oh my gosh, I've learned so much from this campaign. It was, brought to my attention, and I was immediately excited to be part of something like this, because what I learned, is that this disease does disproportionately affect Black people and other minority groups. We are more likely to have worse, outcomes with this disease. And so that was something that was new to me and incredibly sad to hear, which is what made me excited to do such a project to raise awareness about this issue.
Oh yeah, I want to bring you back in, because obviously we're looking at some video now. You can see of Jay doing that spoken poem. What was it like for you to hear it coming from her when she put it together and took the stage, performed it? What was that like for you?
Wow. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it now. It was a powerful, powerful moment for me. If you understand the campaign, I had no idea who she was or what the poetry was going to be, or what the art was going to be. And when I walked in and seen her on stage, it's funny, I was looking for something like a veil to be pulled off, but she was just standing there. And then once I sat down and she started speaking, I realized she was the art and the words coming out of her mouth. And it was perfect because I'm into music and I'm really big on that. And so it was just a perfect pairing. And I was just moved beyond words. I can't even explain it, but very heartfelt, very personal. It was everything to me, that moment.
It had to have been overwhelming, being able to hear that. And I mean, the power that comes from those spoken word poems, I love that. And I love that this is a campaign that's going on right now, because it helps people, too, to know that they're not alone and that sort of thing. So, Oya, What can you tell people that are maybe impacted by multiple myeloma, this campaign, the Told True, how it's really just helped you and for you to be able to feel heard and that your story is being told? Just talk about your experience, what advice you'd give for others out there.
Oh, sure. Well, for starters, it's been a great partnership with Pfizer. The Told True campaign has been a great outlet for me and what I'm trying to do as far as being an advocate for this disease. You can go to mmtoldtrue.com to get some inspiration and some hope. That's what I'm hoping to convey, or that message that gets conveyed, is that this is about hope. Because if you don't have hope, you don't have anything. And it was just a really great experience, and I wanted to do something that was bigger than myself, that really made a difference dealing with this disease.
Well, Oya, I appreciate you sharing your story. Jays, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk about you being a part of this campaign. Wish you both the best, and thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, Amanda. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, Memphis Black Restaurant Week is now underway, and the event highlights minority-owned restaurants and eateries. And Action News 5, Sydney Hawkins has more on what you can expect throughout the week. Check it out.
At Art House Cafe on Mississippi Boulevard.
Smoked wing coming up. Smoked wing, all right.
Your typical meal could be
smoked Gouda potatoes, smoked wings, and smoked cabbage.
This week for Memphis Black Restaurant Week, you can order that and more.
All the smoked plate will be on special. Our catfish entree plate, which comes with 2 sides. We'll also have our pork rib, baby back pork ribs. It will be on special this week.
The restaurant is just one of 28 restaurants participating in Memphis Black Restaurant Week, a week designed to inform more Memphians about the diverse food choices while helping those businesses grow.
You're not just purchasing a lunch item or dinner item. You're really pouring into a business. You're helping them reinvest into getting more employees, getting catering vans, really getting just more into their business that they need to develop.
Among the participating businesses are a Black-owned candy store, an ice cream, and a coffee shop, each coming with their own story to tell those who participate this week.
Some of them are just getting restaurants passed down through their family. They wanted to share it with the community. Some of them are just jumping into entrepreneurship. They see the restaurant business. They're excited about it. So everybody has a story, and you're really helping somebody in the small business community at the end of the day.
In Memphis, Sydney Hawkins, Action News 5.
And the Memphis Restaurant Week will end Saturday, March 11th, rather. For a full list of participating restaurants, you can visit our website, actionnews5.com. So Tennessee State Representative, a Tennessee State representative from Memphis is sponsoring a bill that would speed up the process to become a licensed lash technician. Representative Antonio Parkinson says at its core, this bill is about creating more opportunities and getting Memphians back to work. Currently, you must complete 1,500 hours of cosmetology school or 750 hours of esthetician school to become a licensed lash tech, but now there may be an easier path. Parkinson says he hopes this bill will allow freestanding lash schools to open up.
That means that it will reduce the price of going to school exponentially and reduce the amount of hours that a student has to spend in school in order to become a licensed lash tech.
Parkinson says his lash bill will be in committee today. If it passes the House and Senate, he hopes to have the first lash school opening next year. So statistics clearly show the average college student made significantly more money in their career than those without a degree. But now there is a major shift taking place with many high-profile employers saying that you no longer need a college degree. Daisha Burns explains more about this.
I was like, they're never going to put me in this job.
Beth Christian is Pennsylvania's acting deputy secretary for administration, a position she reached without a college degree.
Did you feel that barrier?
It took me about 10 years to get to the level that a person with a degree would have.
Beth stood alongside Governor Josh Shapiro as he eliminated the college degree requirement for 92% of jobs in state government.
This was your first official act as governor. Why?
We want folks to know that we're going to judge you based on your skills and the grit and determination that you bring to bear.
Opening up about 65,000 jobs to non-college graduates. The Democrat joins his Republican counterparts in Maryland and Utah who've made similar moves.
I'm sick and tired, frankly, of this attitude that if you don't go to college, you don't have the requisite skills to succeed.
More than 62% of Americans over 25 don't have a bachelor's degree. For people like Doris Mayhew, who works in the governor's office, college simply wasn't an option.
I come from a one-person home, single mother, my father in and out of incarceration. I remember in high school, my mom saying, you have to get a job. You're not going to go to college.
About halfway through her career, Doris did decide to go back to school.
I just felt like I had to have the piece of paper.
But it's a growing trend in today's labor market. 1 in 5 employers are relaxing educational requirements to attract workers that have historically been shut out.
Potential candidates are saying, okay, so I can go into the workforce, avoid debt, and, by the way, be rewarded with pay increases that we haven't seen in quite a while in the U.S. A college degree is not essential, even in the high-tech spaces of our economy.
Like IBM, who implemented a skills-first hiring approach in 2016.
More than 50% of our jobs do not require a college degree.
How has that changed the workplace?
What we are finding is that the real world experience is ensuring that they have a broader, more diverse set of skills.
IBM says it's seen a 63% increase in applicants from underrepresented communities by taking away the degree requirement for more jobs, opening doors to those with experiences beyond the traditional classroom.
Even if you don't meet every single requirement for the job, you should apply because the aperture is much wider now.
Dasha Burns, NBC News, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
So no word on when Ja Morant will return to the court. That's according to Coach Taylor Jenkins, who made a statement about his suspension late last night. Now, as many of you probably know at this point, Ja was suspended effective immediately by the NBA after video Friday night showed him flashing a gun while shirtless at a party. He released a statement saying, in part, quote, "I'm sorry to my family, teammates, coaches, the city of Memphis, and the entire Grizzlies organizations for letting you down."
You got to be aware that all eyes are always going to be on you. No matter what you do, you're going to be the focal point of attention. So you just got to be aware of that and make smart decisions because you are going to affect a lot of people.
At last check, Ja will miss the next 2 games. They're taking on the Lakers tomorrow in Los Angeles. The next home game will be Thursday against the Warriors on March 9th. At this point, though, Nike released a statement saying, quote, "We appreciate Ja's accountability and that he is taking the time to get the help he needs. We support his prioritization of his well-being," end quote. So this is an interesting one. The National Park Service is using, let's get that video up for you. The National Park Service is using a little humor to warn people about bears. On social media last week, the agency offered a number of real tips about bear encounters. They also said, quote, "If you come across a bear, never push a slower friend down, even if you feel the friendship has run its course." The service pointed out that as spring nears, bears will become more active. The agency also notes that bear attacks are rare, but they can happen.
Okay, switching gears right now. The value of a second opinion. Boy, that is such a value. You can't put a price on that. And it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's getting a value for a piece of work that you need done at your home, or something with regards to your car, for example. Or what about your health? Getting a second opinion on your health is so important. And I want to talk to Dr. Peter Rasmussen about the value of second opinions this morning. Dr. Peter Rasmussen is on the Action News 5 digital desk. How are you, Doctor?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. So let's talk about the issue. We're having some audio problems or video problems with one of the patients we were going to talk to, Sally Schuler. But I want to talk to you about how important it is to get a second opinion. It feels like in any kind of field, but specifically in the health field, right?
Yeah, you know, medicine is very complex these days, and there's an enormous amount of data and research that happens all the time. It's estimated that the health knowledge doubles every 30 days. Physicians can't possibly keep on top of all of that. And it's very important if you're facing a serious health problem or you have a chronic disease to seek out the best expert you possibly can who has the deepest knowledge about your particular condition. Frequently, patients find the best doctor locally. But occasionally, if you have a question in your mind about how you're doing with your care, or are there other options to treatments and major surgeries, it's worth getting a second opinion from an expert who's got deep knowledge in your particular concern.
I should mention, Dr. Rasmussen, you're the Chief Clinical Officer at the clinic by the Cleveland Clinic. And I understand the Cleveland Clinic did a heart health survey, and there were some key findings out of it. Can you speak a little bit about what those key findings were?
As you know, the Cleveland Clinic has been ranked #1 in cardiac care in the United States for more than 25 years now, and we put a lot of emphasis on cardiac care. We recently surveyed over 1,000 Americans to take a look at eating habits of folks principally in the Cleveland area, but also nationally. And we found that there was about 1/3 of the patients who even had significant cardiac disease that were not knowledgeable or were not able to follow a heart-healthy diet. And more than 40% of patients were not doing appropriate exercise for their cardiac condition. Patients cited the cost of healthy food as being one of the major barriers to pursuing a heart-healthy diet.
Yeah. So, Doctor, you know, this is the key findings are interesting. It was the cost of healthy food, biggest barrier to eating healthy. Fast food diet is, some Americans think that is healthy. And then you have some with, you know, heart disease or a family history of heart disease. They struggle to eat healthy in social situations. And most Americans misunderstand how much diet affects losing weight more than exercise. Did any of these key findings surprise you?
Not really. I see this every day in my practice. As you know, obesity is a significant problem in the United States and around the world. And most patients tell me that they have trouble exercising for a variety of reasons and can't lose weight. For any of us who've been successful in losing weight, the thing that's most obvious is actually what your diet is and not how much exercise you're doing. And people can have good success losing weight with a variety of different diets. A Mediterranean diet is very good for heart health. If you're looking to just lose weight and you've got general good health otherwise, folks can have a good success with ketogenic diets or carnivore, so-called carnivore diets, ones that are designed to really lower the amount of carbohydrate or energy that you're putting in your body. I think it's important to identify the kind of diet that works best for your health concerns and your particular metabolism. In my particular practice, I find that men do quite well with low carbohydrate or ketogenic diets, and females in general don't do quite as well as men do with that one. But that can lead to significant weight loss in a short period of time. When you're thinking about a heart-healthy diet, it's important to try to pursue the 3 Bs. You want to have low blood pressure, you want to have low blood sugar, and low bad cholesterol. Those should be your goals when you're trying to manage your diet in terms of a heart-healthy lifestyle.
I like that, Doctor, the 3 Bs. All right. Going back to my original question, getting that second opinion, you know, a lot of people out there, they feel like, well, yeah, I should get a second opinion, but I don't really have the time to go and see a doctor. But, you know, in the age of telemedicine, getting a second opinion, especially a virtual second opinion, can work just as fine as any other second opinion. I'm referring to Sally Schuler, who had a virtual second opinion, and it was so successful with her because she ended up needing surgery, and it saved her life getting that virtual second opinion.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Medical data now is almost always digitized, whether it's in electronic health record or medical imaging. It's all stored in the cloud or on servers somewhere, and it becomes quite relatively easy to transmit medical data from one site to another. And when you're starting with a diagnosis and you've had a lot of testing and laboratory work done, that can easily be transmitted to an expert somewhere else. Fortunately, most states in the U.S. do allow for intermittent second opinions across state lines, which is what Sally was able to avail herself of. And our expert was able to review her local testing results and listen to the description of what her concerns were and able to provide her with a different direction from what her local physicians were indicating to her. Sometimes patients are concerned about getting a second opinion and that they don't want to offend their original doctor. In my practice, if a patient ever voices that kind of concern, I strongly encourage them to get a second opinion because I want to be their partner in their health care. If they're not 100% certain about what I'm doing is the right thing for them, I do want to encourage them to have someone else take a look at them because I want to have confidence that the two of us are working together as a team. So local physicians shouldn't really feel threatened or concerned about having a patient seek a second opinion. The outcome of second opinion can be a change in a recommendation for a different treatment plan, or we might recommend exactly the same thing as your local physician do, and in that sense, then you can approach your local care plan with more confidence than you ever did.
Dr. Rasmussen, any final thoughts before we let you go? This has been very helpful to our viewers.
I see the value of second opinions every day in patients who seek virtual second opinions through our program. I think, generally speaking, patients do not get second opinions often enough. If you're faced with a major health crisis, major surgery, and you've got the opportunity of a little bit of time to get a second opinion, whether it's in person or remotely, I strongly encourage you to do that because frequently there are options for your care and your situation that you may not know about.
All right, Dr. Peter Rasmussen, the Chief Clinical Officer at the Clinic by the Cleveland Clinic. We appreciate your time this morning. You really helped our viewers. Thanks so very much.
Thank you.
But I want to switch gears now and talk about something really, really cool. Regional One Health Center for Innovation is working with its newest innovator. And joining me now to talk more about it, we have Alejandra Alvarez, the director over at the center there. Alejandra, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, and of course we're glad to have you back here on the digital desk. And I guess for starters, for people who aren't familiar with the Regional One Health Center for Innovation, talk a little bit about what goes on there.
Definitely. So there's a lot of things that we do from a programmatic standpoint that engage employees and everybody that works within the hospital. But we also have a very cool and unique program that works with entrepreneurs. It's called the Healthcare Startup Access Incubator. And so it's a program designed to bring startups, innovators into the system and give them access so that they can validate whether their product or service has clinical or business validation. And that is extremely important for somebody that's a startup because it essentially de-risks their product and service so that when they do enter the marketplace, they have a higher chance of success and maintaining that success.
And so you have a new innovator that you're working with that is really putting together a unique product that's going to help a lot of lives. So let's talk about it. Dive in. Tell me a little bit more about who you are going to be working with.
That is correct. So they are Augment Health, and essentially they've developed a technology that aims at improving overall patient quality and of health. So what it is it's a smart bladder monitor that will track when your bladder is full and also other bladder health parameters. It's pretty unique in that it will alert you when your bladder is full. So this is essentially has the possibility to remove the need of having to carry a urine bag around. And so that could be uncomfortable, that can be inconvenient, that can be very embarrassing for a patient. So by replacing that with this technology, it will improve their quality of life.
I was fixing to say, let's talk more about the types of patients that would possibly use this device and benefit from it.
Certainly. So these patients are patients that have neurogenic bladder, which is a condition that impacts their bladder sensation and control as a result of either brain or spinal cord or nerve problems that they may have. And so essentially they lack the ability to know when their bladder is full or have that natural organic ability that you and I would have to know when to use the restroom and things of that nature. They have lost that. So that's why this is so important for them.
It's really cool, and it's so cool that y'all are kind of taking this on and helping them to develop this even more. I know you're working with them a little bit differently than some of the others that you have in the past. Can you explain?
Yeah, so a majority of our participants have been in what we call prototype ready. And so for Augment Health, they're in sort of the state before that. They're in prototype in development, which is exciting for us because we wanted our incubator to be able to support all areas of development, not just those that are ready to be commercialized. So it has essentially validated in that our incubator, our access is super important for anyone who's in any of those development stages as they're developing their startup, as they're growing and making an impact. So that's why it's super unique for us, and we're excited to have them on board.
So what kind of information are you going to be helping to provide Augment Health with this?
So as you can imagine, some of these innovators are essentially addressing a very key problem, and sometimes they don't come from healthcare. They don't have a healthcare background. So having access gives them the opportunity to understand how healthcare makes decisions. And so it's as simple as understanding the procurement process, the materials management process, the billing process, and obviously very particular to their use case. And so how does that work? And all of that information influences their commercialization strategy. It influences their prototype design. So we will be working with them by providing them both business and clinical validation. So what that means is we will be able to exchange, or they'll be able to see and get feedback from both the business side of the organization as well as the clinical side of the organization.
So will this product be used with any patients?
So their product is in prototype in progress, so it's not ready for patients to use it. However, they will be working, like I said, with business and clinical teams. And so what that means is that they'll be getting feedback directly from clinical teams that have direct access to patients with this type of conditions. And so that feedback will be basically from providers, nurses, or any clinical staff that works directly with those patients, which is still valuable. Even if the patient can't use it at this time or is not able to use it, they'll still be able to provide that feedback, which will still influence their prototype design as they move forward with the patient perspective and need in mind.
It's so cool, the work that y'all do over there. And I remember having you on the digital desk before, just talking about what the Center for Innovation was. And so I appreciate you coming on. If people want to go and find out more about what Regional One Health Center for Innovation does, where can they go to find that information?
Definitely, and we thank you guys for giving us an opportunity to share this exciting news. People can go to innovation.regional1health.org. We have a whole website dedicated to the work that we do. They can contact us through there, and there's also a series of previous projects and things that we like to share with our audiences that they can learn more about.
Super cool, and I love to hear about this new innovator, Alejandra Alvarez, director over at Regional One Health Center for Innovation. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk about some of the great work y'all are doing over there.
Thank you.
Good morning. Another warm day ahead for us today. Warm again tomorrow as well with a high around 70. Average for this point in March is 61 degrees. So we are starting to see that average rise, but a drop in temperatures on Wednesday, and then we'll be back closer to normal with highs in the 60s Thursday through Sunday. But look at next week. High temperatures take another dip, and it looks like we'll have below average temperatures pretty much all of next week. Now today and tomorrow, we don't have any rain in the forecast, but that drop in temperatures on Wednesday is because of a cold front. and that will bring in some rain. Actually, a 70% chance of rain Wednesday, high rain chances Thursday, and a few showers early in the morning on Friday too. So let's talk timing. First alert Futurecast, 9 o'clock in the morning, still mostly dry. Now you may squeeze out a stray shower in Arkansas over towards Wynn, but look at Memphis, North Mississippi. We're really not seeing much of that rain at that point. Over the hours in the morning and into the afternoon, you'll get that rain moving in. So by 2 o'clock, widespread heavy rain, especially for eastern Arkansas, where you're seeing those oranges and reds indicating some heavier rain. Over towards West Memphis and Forest City, rain continues on and off throughout the afternoon. By 7 o'clock at night on Wednesday, heavy rain in North Mississippi, a few spotty showers in Memphis, but you actually get more heavy rain arriving just after midnight here Wednesday into early Thursday. And as I mentioned, high rain chances Thursday. You'll probably have on and off rain all day. So with rain Thursday and Wednesday and early Friday, we have about 3 inches of rain in the forecast through Friday morning. In Memphis, about 2.5 inches in Tunica, Helena, close to 2 inches in Holly Springs and Bolivar, and about 1 inch up towards Dyersburg and Blytheville. We do not need any more rain at this point, though. We're about 2.5 inches above normal for the month of March so far, and March just started. So we are slowly going to see those rain chances rise here through the end of the week. So we may tack on another 2 to 3 inches of rain, as I mentioned, to that total that we already have for March. Thankfully, no rain in the forecast today. If you want to do something outside, such a nice afternoon for it. By noon, we're at 73, 1 o'clock, 75 degrees and a nice southwest wind at about 10 to 15 miles per hour today. So your high on Saturday is 64 degrees. We're at 65 on Sunday, and you have a chance for a stray shower over the weekend, but it does look like we'll be mostly dry here. Temperatures in the upper 70s on Monday, 70 degrees on Tuesday, 50s as I mentioned on Wednesday, and there's that rain in the forecast. And then by the weekend, you'll have a 20% chance of a stray shower on Saturday and Sunday, but rain chances dropping down for the weekend.
All right. Well, how about the spring, the summer months? I know I'm looking forward to them. It's starting to feel like that outside here in the Mid-South. But of course, with that comes allergy season, and no one likes that. The sniffles, the sneezing, the itchy eyes. Well, joining us now to talk more about how to deal with it, the best treatment options, is physician's assistant Victoria Vanacore. She is with St. Francis Medical Partners. Good morning. How's it going?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad to have you on. I'm glad that audio is working perfectly and we can get things going. So I guess let's go ahead and dive in and just talk about some of the causes that lead to these allergies that are just so.
Yeah, so here in the Memphis area, we rank in the top 3 cities for seasonal allergies. The springtime especially can be very brutal here. It is not the flowers really to blame for the spring allergies as much as the tree pollens. Right now, a lot of the trees are in bloom. Pecan, walnut, cedar, birch willow, all of these are the most predominant allergies that we are seeing in the springtime here in this area.
And so let's go ahead and talk about the symptoms. You're mentioning it is awful here in the Mid-South when it comes to allergies. I have friends that moved from other parts of the country to Memphis, and they're just like, I never had allergies, and now I'm dealing with the mess of them. And now they're like, I understand why it's so annoying. So let's just talk about some of the symptoms that some people experience with this type of thing.
Absolutely. So allergy symptoms can range from a mere inconvenience to really debilitating symptoms. Most commonly, itchy eyes, watery eyes, runny nose, stuffy nose, nasal congestion. It varies, from person to person. But like I said, here in the Mid-South, if you're an allergy sufferer, this is a tough time of year for a lot of people. Some people get that ear fullness where your ears feel really clogged. And again, that's just all due to this pollen.
And I guess the big thing people want to know is if I'm dealing with this, if all of a sudden, I'm dealing with the itchy eyes, the kind of the cold-like symptoms, what are some of the best ways to maybe handle something like that? Is it something like Claritin, or what would you recommend for people to be able to kind of help ease those symptoms?
Absolutely. So over the counter, we have a lot of medications that are available for us to combat these allergies. I usually recommend to my patients starting on these antihistamines usually in February or so that we can build that antihistamine level up in our system, and that so we're ready when everything is in full bloom, which is usually by the beginning of March here. As you can see, these last few days have been pretty bad with the pollen. So Claritin, Zyrtec, Allegra, those are all over-the-counter options that are good. Of course, speaking with your medical provider to see what's best for you is certainly important. There are also nasal sprays available that contain steroids, such as Flonase or Nasonex, also available over the counter. So we do have a lot of options, and it's very important that we educate our patients on what those options are.
And I think a lot of people sometimes don't. Is there a difference when you talk about having a cold and allergies? Because a lot of times it seems like the symptoms are very similar. At what point would you maybe say, I need to go see a doctor? Or is there really much of a difference when you start to think about the symptoms and whatnot?
So there is. Typically, of course, the symptoms do overlap. Common cold is caused by a virus. Viruses tend to run their course 5 to 10 days in most healthy people. Viruses resolve. So the problem with allergy symptoms is if they are not managed, these symptoms persist for a very long time, throughout the entire season sometimes. So you're talking about months. The other thing is, viruses, colds tend to cause fever, whereas allergies do not. So that's a real big indicator. If you're not running a fever, but you're just constantly congested with those symptoms, then you really should consider that it is allergy.
Good advice, good information there. Anything else you want to mention as far as preventative type measures that people can take? Do dehumidifiers help? What kinds is there other things outside of just the medications that can help?
Absolutely. So, some people are a little hesitant to take something every day. We have other options. You can simply use a nasal saline, which is just salt water to help flush your nasal cavities, flush those sinus cavities. Also changing the air filters in your home. In the wintertime, these mold spores just go inactive, and as the spring comes, these reactivate. So changing those filters out, most filters will tell you every 90 days to change them. So every spring, definitely, get those filters changed. If you're working outside, if you're doing yard work, wearing an N95 mask is very helpful so that you are not inhaling all of these allergens.
Good tips there. And outside of just the spring and summer and the allergy season and whatnot, I know a week from now we're going to be springing forward, so we're going to lose an hour of sleep. And of course, they talk about how that can have impacts on your body and that sort of thing. Do you have any advice for people as we go to make that shift to maybe help ease that transition a little bit?
Yes, so daylight savings is always a tough time of year. Losing that hour of sleep is never easy, especially when you have young kids at home. They don't quite understand the time change either. One thing I always recommend is starting early. Even now, about a week in advance, just going to bed about 15 minutes earlier each night so that you can prepare yourself for that time change so that you're still getting your solid sleep every night. Ideally 7 to 9 hours per night is the sleep that our bodies require. And when you lose that hour, if you don't prepare early, you could find yourself extremely tired that day of daylight savings.
And for me, I will say I do like I don't like losing the hour of sleep. I don't think anybody does. But I will say that I do enjoy having that additional sunlight in the evenings and whatnot. Are there benefits to having that additional sunlight when it comes to that sort of thing?
There is. Our bodies need sunlight. We need to make sure we're getting adequate sunlight. That increases the serotonin levels in our brain and allows us to function well every day. So definitely getting up and getting that sunlight, taking advantage. The days are a little bit longer. We do have a little more sunlight as far as, the sun setting later since that clock goes forward. So definitely make sure you're getting plenty of sunlight. If we can be outside, getting that light, getting our exercise, staying in a routine too with our sleep. It's important to wind down in the evening times, have a good nighttime routine, whether that's reading a book or just laying in a nice, quiet, dark room. getting those screens put away. A lot of people on their iPads or iPhones at night, that could be very detrimental to our sleeping habits. So daylight savings aside, we want to make sure we are putting those devices down at least 1 to 2 hours before heading into bed for the evening.
For sure, people don't realize how important sleep is when it comes to their overall health. Victoria Vanacore, physician's assistant with St. Francis Medical Partners, I appreciate your time this morning, and you have a good rest of the day, all right?
Thank you so much.
Hey, Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. Let's talk about education in the state of Tennessee. And from what we understand, Tennessee House Speaker Cameron Sexton floated the idea of the state rejecting federal funding for K-8 education. He wants to free up Tennessee schools from various federal rules and restrictions that go along with accepting these dollars. Right now, the state of Tennessee gets about $1.8 billion annually from the federal government for K-12 education, and the Tennessee House Speaker says the state has had enough revenue to cover any difference, but does a shift like that certainly would mark a major change in how Tennessee funds education. Let's talk more about this with Marta Aldrich. She is a reporter with Chalkbeat Tennessee, State House reporter there. Marta, glad to have you back on the digital desk. How are you?
Thank you. Very well.
Good. So $1.8 billion, that's a lot of money for Tennessee to forego. Tell us, is this actually feasible, and what would it mean?
So, well, first of all, I want to say Speaker Sexton, people have asked me if this is a serious proposal, and Speaker Sexton says he is serious. In fact, his words to me were, I absolutely think we should do it. But he added that he wants to start a conversation about the idea, and that it doesn't mean that Tennessee should make this kind of massive shift this year. And spokespeople for Governor Lee and for Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally have also indicated that their offices are open to exploring the possibility. And several top education leaders in the House have expressed outright enthusiasm for this idea. They say it would give Tennessee more autonomy when it comes to educating our students. But there are other lawmakers who say they have a lot of questions still.
So I've heard from Republicans in Tennessee and other states that have talked about this move, this idea, saying that CRT, woke ideology, they want to stay away from that, and that's what they say is one of the main reasons why they want to reject funding, because otherwise there will be a lot of, I guess, strings attached to that money. My understanding is no states really rejected federal funding. Is this feasible? Could Tennessee do it? And if so, how?
So yes, Tennessee could reject the federal funding. The reason that no state has ever done this before is that states typically need the money. Federal funding makes up about 1/10 of their K-12 education budget. And leaders in other typically Republican-leaning states have talked about this idea before. In Oklahoma right now, lawmakers are currently considering legislation to phase out federal ed funding over 10 years. And there are also small school systems across the state that have passed on federal money. That's usually because of the cost of compliance for those school systems. I will say, how are we going to do this? Now, if it happens, Speaker Sexton has made this funding pivot sound pretty simple. You know, just substitute the state funding for federal education funding. But it really would not be that simple. The way that the federal funding works is actually pretty complex. Some districts and schools are more dependent than others on that money, and the lion's share goes to schools that serve disadvantaged students. And there are other federally funded programs and grants that target certain needs that range from rural education and English language learners to technology and charter schools. And all of these matters go through the U.S. Department of Education. But there's also a variety of federal school grants that go through the U.S. Department of Agriculture to provide free meals to qualifying students. And there's a related web of state laws and policies that have been created in response to most of these federal grants. That web likely would have to be unwound if Tennessee decided to go it alone.
I gotcha. And so, Speaker Sexton, he granted you an interview. You talked to him about these different things. Did he mention why they would want to do that? Is it because of various ideological differences with this administration, with the federal government here in Tennessee? I mean, did he talk specifics with you about why they would do that? Is it because of ideology?
Well, he didn't say that. He says that testing is the main problem. States that take federal money must give annual tests in reading and math in grades 3 through 8 and once in high school. They're also required to give a science test one time each in elementary, middle, and high school. So each state has to give 17 tests annually, although no individual student takes more than 3 of those tests in a given year. Speaker Sexton says Tennessee overtests and that it doesn't give the right test. He says Tennessee should scrap or could scrap the TCAP tests, which our state developed through its own testing companies, and then create a better test with the help of its educators. But if Tennessee wants to do that, it probably could already do it in conversation with the U.S. Ed Department. States already have more flexibility than ever to develop their testing, evaluation, and accountability systems under a 2015 federal law that was crafted with the leadership of Tennessee's former senator and governor, Lamar Alexander. Beyond the issue of testing, I don't think many people would dispute that accepting federal funding comes with a lot of red tape. There's mounds of paperwork. There's numerous audits of how the money is spent. All of that is part of a huge bureaucratic infrastructure that comes with administering billions of dollars of federal funding. Sexton has not given us the list of his other beefs, although we've asked him numerous times for that list. But some do suspect that his bigger objections are related to current culture war issues about curriculum and whether transgender students should be allowed to use school bathrooms or play sports consistent with their gender identity, which may not correspond with the sex that is listed on their birth certificates.
So all these changes, Marta, a lot of people are wondering, okay, what are the changes if they do happen? What would they mean for schools, and specifically, what would they mean for kids?
Yeah. So if Tennessee opts to do this, it possibly could disrupt finances for schools, but it really depends on how it's done. Through a program called Title I, the U.S. government distributes hundreds of millions of federal dollars to Tennessee schools that serve large concentrations of students from low-income homes to help them improve achievement. Now, if Tennessee replaced Title I funding with state money, would it still use the federal formula for distributing that money? Sexton has not said. This is particularly important for Memphis Shelby County schools because all but 8 of the school system's 155 district-run schools have Title I designations. And if you add up all the various pots of federal education money due to MSCS, the district is projecting to get more than $892 million in federal dollars next school year. As for what it could mean for kids, that's really the most important question, right? And the answer is there's just a lot of uncertainty. Speaker Sexton has said his intention is for the state to fund all of the programs currently covered by the federal government, but he's not given details about what that would look like. For instance, for students with disabilities that are currently protected by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. That federal statute says schools that accept federal funds must identify students with disabilities and give them a free and appropriate public education that's tailored to their needs. Now, Sexton says the state can come up with a similar program that he believes could be better, but the Tennessee Disability Coalition says there's no assurance that a Tennessee version would give families the same or better protections than under the current federal laws that are designed to protect students with disabilities.
Are they going to discuss this during this legislative session? I mean, it sounds like Sexton floated the idea, and now it's time for state lawmakers to discuss it. So there's not going to be the details that we know that we're asking about right now. Is this something that could eventually be resolved this legislative session, or might it be something that's afterwards?
I would seriously doubt it. He has not filed an amendment to an existing caption bill that would lay out his plan. And really until people see the details, there can be no serious discussions. This is a 2-year legislative session. We're at the very beginning of the 2-year session. So he could file a bill to be discussed in next year's legislative session, and it would still count because it's part of this current General Assembly. So I would not anticipate anything immediately, but you never know.
Yeah, I got you. Marta Aldridge, Chalkbeat reporter for the Tennessee State House. We appreciate you writing a very detailed article about this very issue. By the way, why don't you tell our viewers where they can read this article?
Just Google Chalkbeat Tennessee, and you can find our website and read our ongoing coverage that has to do with both state policy and Memphis-Shelby County schools.
Okay, Marta Aldridge, we appreciate you and your time. Thanks so very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. Another warm day ahead for us today. Warm again tomorrow as well with a high around 70. You know, average for this point in March is 61 degrees. So we are starting to see that average rise, but a drop in temperatures on Wednesday, and then we'll be back closer to normal with highs in the 60s Thursday through Sunday. But look at next week. High temperatures take another dip, and it looks like we'll have below average temperatures pretty much all of next week. Now, today and tomorrow, we don't have any rain in the forecast, but that drop in temperatures on Wednesday is because of a cold front, and that will bring in some rain. Actually, a 70% chance of rain Wednesday, high rain chances Thursday, and a few showers early in the morning on Friday too. So let's talk timing. First alert Futurecast, 9 o'clock in the morning, still mostly dry. Now you may squeeze out a stray shower in Arkansas over towards wind, but look at Memphis, North Mississippi. We're really not seeing much of that rain at that point. Over the hours in the morning and into the afternoon, you'll get that rain moving in. So by 2 o'clock, widespread heavy rain, especially for eastern Arkansas, where you're seeing those oranges and reds indicating some heavier rain. Over towards West Memphis and Forest City, rain continues on and off throughout the afternoon. By 7 o'clock at night on Wednesday, heavy rain in North Mississippi, a few spotty showers in Memphis, but you actually get more heavy rain arriving just after midnight here Wednesday into early Thursday. And as I mentioned, high rain chances Thursday. You'll probably have on and off rain all day. So with rain Thursday and Wednesday and early Friday, we have about 3 inches of rain in the forecast through Friday morning. In Memphis, about 2.5 inches in Tunica, Helena, close to 2 inches in Holly Springs and Bolivar, and about 1 inch up towards Dyersburg and Blytheville. We do not need any more rain at this point, though. We're about 2.5 inches above normal for the month of March so far, and March just started. So we are slowly going to see those rain chances rise here through the end of the week. So we may tack on another 2 to 3 inches of rain, as I mentioned, to that total that we already have for March. Thankfully, no rain in the forecast today. If you want to do something outside, such a nice afternoon for it. By noon, we're at 73, 1 o'clock, 75 degrees, and a nice southwest wind at about 10 to 15 miles per hour today. So your high on Saturday is 64 degrees. We're at 65 on Sunday, and you have a chance for a stray shower over the weekend, but it does look like we'll be mostly dry here. Temperatures in the upper 70s on Monday, 70 degrees on Tuesday, 50s as I mentioned on Wednesday, and there's that rain in the forecast. And then by the weekend, you'll have a 20% chance of a stray shower on Saturday and Sunday, but rain chances dropping down for the weekend.
All right, well, that'll do it for us here at the Action News 5 digital desk. For the latest news at any hour, you can always head over to actionnews5.com. We update this all throughout the day so you can be in touch with the latest news in your area. Stick around, though. We have midday headed your way in the next couple of minutes, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow starting at 8 o'clock on the Action News 5 digital desk.